Well, hello there to all the good people of Ohio and beyond. This is Aaron Knapp, and you're tuned into Unplugged, broadcasting without permission. This is a place where the truth gets louder and we dig deeper, and where we always remember be lawful, not awful. If you want the full stories, the documents, the videos, and everything they don't want you to see, head on over to Aaron Knapp Unplugged.com, my new home for every investigation, every episode, and every update. And while you're here, be sure to like the video, follow the page, and hit subscribe, and share this with someone who needs the truth. We're building something real here. We're building something fearless, and we're doing it together. Welcome to Unplugged. Let's kick this thing off. Well, hello there to all the
Oh, hey there, guys. Didn't notice you over there. You know, just like Mr. Rogers coming in, I'm coming in hot today, too. Haven't got myself all prepped up yet, but would you be my neighbor? Is what I would ask all of you out there in La La Land. But we're going to get down to some business today, as I might say. And I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in today. It's on this beautiful snow day. Today we got a lot going on. There's not going to be a a school board meeting apparently. They heard I was going to show up, and they canceled it till Thursday, I guess. I don't know. Actually, they did it because of the snow. But so today's going to be a bit different here. You know, listen. We're going to go through this piece by piece, and then at the end, I'm going to unload a little. So we're going to start out, and we're going to talk about the city. So we're going to talk about what happens when you follow the city from the inside, like I have. And there's a point, at some point, where all of this stops being the story, and it becomes a record. It's not about one incident, one disagreement, not one moment that can really be explained away or isolated in any way, shape, or form, but a continuous record that builds over time until it starts to tell its own story. And this is where it all kind of began for me. It did not begin as a campaign or a platform. It did not begin with an intention to take on an entire freaking system or city or county or state. It began the way all accountability kind of does, right? Like with a question. This should have had a simple answer and it didn't. It began with the assumption that if you asked your government, right, for information, you would get, you'd get something in return. And then if something happened in a public meeting, it would be reflected accurately in the record. And then if you filed a complaint, it would be evaluated on its own merits. What I found out instead is that the process itself is the issue. And once that becomes the problem, everything changes, right? So at the beginning, there's always this belief that the system's designed to work. There are rules, and those rules are followed, or they're supposed to be. And when something goes wrong, there's a mechanism to correct it, right? But what I encountered wasn't a system that resolved questions. What I encountered was a system that expanded them, a system that every time I followed the record, it didn't end. It led somewhere new. And it revealed another inconsistency, another string to pull on, another story to tell, another person with another problem, another missing piece to this gigantic puzzle that I'm now digging through. Another explanation that didn't fully align with, what had already been provided to me. What started as a single request became multiple requests, and then dozens, and then continuous process of trying to reconcile what the public was told and what the record actually showed. We see that no better in what's going on with the schools right now. I mean, they literally hired a communications director specifically to translate the narrative. And at some point, it becomes clear that it's not about one issue, right? It's a pattern. And it repeats itself no matter where you look. Everywhere I look, I see it. The same dumb shit over and over and over again. I'm not observing this from the outside anymore. I'm in the room. I'm sitting in city council meetings. I'm listening to these discussions. I'm watching how public comments handled, documenting how people are treated when they spoke. And I'm watching what happens in real time, not relying on summaries or secondhand accounts. And then I go back and I look at the official record. I read the minutes. I compare them to, the video. I look at how those events played out. And then how they were later described by the officials, by law enforcement, by anybody really. And those two things didn't always match. That was the problem. Public comment is supposed to be open, right? It's one of the few places where a citizen can stand in front of the government and speak directly. But what I saw over time really wasn't consistent application, right? Some speakers are allowed to continue, some are cut off. Some criticism was tolerated, others were labeled disruptive. And when those moments were compared to the official record, the alignment was not always the same. And that's where the first cracks always started to appear really in this whole thing, because once the official record doesn't reflect what occurred, everything that depends on that record becomes a question. I'm going to pause just real quick here to make a statement. I know this is the truth. I remember having a conversation with Amber recently before she went to speak at city council, and bless her beautiful heart. You can't help it. All right, I'm just going to say it. You can't help but love Amber. I don't care what you guys say about her behind her back. You're scared of her light. That's it. I see her light. I want to help her, even if she could be best friends with the devil, and I would be like, yo, bro, what's up? Ooh, that's hot. Right? She can bring together people that I've never seen before. She posted something from a person that I don't particularly care for because of what they assumed about me, although I've later found that maybe they found a different level of assumption about me after they saw I am willing to call out everyone and anyone about everything and anything. I don't have a side. My side is your side, the people's side. I don't give a shit about what they're doing outside of that, right? None of that matters to me. What I care about is, are we doing the right thing as human beings? Are we making decisions based on moral reasons? Are we overturning laws and putting laws up for moral reasons? Or are we just doing it because we want to help our friends out, or because, we're scared of something? And so, I told Amber one day when she went into city council, she's like, well, how I said they had 2-minute time frame. But I told her, I said, but there's zero chance they'll stop you. She's like, well, why? Well, because, come on, babe. Look at you. Look, she sells everything that she needs to sell to be there. She's a victim in her own right. She had her childhood stolen. No one can argue that. And no one can argue who stole it. Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum stole it. Rosenbaum stole it and then later tried to represent those same people in court. Now, you guys want to go after my attorney, you want to go after me, you want to do all these things. All you people have been doing such dirty things for so long, it kind of cracks me up. I always tell my attorney, I said, no, Bob, I don't honestly ever expect any of them to be found guilty of anything. I never expected Chief McCann to be found guilty of anything. I never expect any of them to. But the cool thing about it is I'm kind of an asshole, right? We all agree on that. So if you give an asshole carte blanche to say and do whatever he wants, isn't that his real victory? Don't throw me in the briar patch, right? I get a paycheck from the VA. I'm not looking for some big score here. You guys all think I am, but most of that money would probably go into me helping community members, me helping the homeless, me helping in ways that a social worker can help. Maybe I formulate my own nonprofit and I put my own money down just so I can have a fucking job. How about that? Let's dwell on that for a second. I did all of this. What, for fucking nothing? You guys think about that, oh, he's crazy, he's unhinged. Well, why? Could it be because 6 years I went to school? For the first 3 or 4, I was doing it. The first 2 or 3, I was doing it in Idaho, in a home, raising my daughter, who was I think 2 or 3 at the time. I was doing it inside my house. I remember doing, biology projects on my kitchen table and having to go to the Rupert, Idaho, waste treatment plant. So this is why I have a near and dear feeling towards waste treatment, water treatment in Lorain, is that I learned all about it in Idaho. I went out to these places, I educated myself. I have this background. I have a background of being a big ass dork, right? I went to school, I got all this education, and that's all I have now. My mom calls me up, and she's an educator, and she did great things. My uncle is was the United States Supreme Court lawyer, and saw all these cases. Right, I was the black sheep. I didn't go to school until late. I was the one that caroused around and lived in places like Lorain, Ohio, and stayed in Bakersfield, and didn't mind living out in Bakersfield, California in the '08. And we call it the '08. It's basically here. I mean, again, I came out here for a woman who I loved in Avon Lake, and ended up in Lorain, and she's like, ew, I can't date you anymore. You live in Lorain. Gross. I didn't know, but I bought a home here, and I'm not one to back away from a challenge. And as a social worker, you guys gave me the perfect challenge. I didn't think you guys would go all in the way you did. You talk about it, but the city's gone all in, the county's gone all in. These people are so scared that they're going to lose their grip on power from some jackass like me running around saying, no, you can't boss me around. No, lawyers don't have that authority. No, what? No. But anyway, I told Amber they would never cut her off, and she went over the time. You heard the little beep, 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 beep. They let her speak. She was crying. Of course they let her speak. Of course they didn't cut her off. And that's not wrong. Okay, I knew they wouldn't. And if you did, then honestly, screw off. Like, that's harsh. You let Zelina speak because, dude, she's elderly, and we respect our elders. Period. Well, unless they're sitting on council, because then they're just council members. But I mean, like, that's where you guys have to understand. Yeah, there are exceptions to every rule. They act like there aren't. There are. They let some people back in their little closed area. They let others not. But everything that happens, everything that we see depends on the record being right and not a question. And that's when I started turning to the public records process. I knew if meetings raised questions, the record should have answers to them, right? That's the law is supposed to do. Ohio law requires public offices to provide records with reasonable period of time. I didn't know this at first. I want to point out, like, on a side note, it was James McCann who educated me on the records process of Ohio. When I initially asked, I asked under FOIA. I'm not from here. A lot of people like to point that out. I came from California to Idaho. But I spent time in Germany and Japan and China and overseas, and I did a lot of different things in my service to the military back in the Gulf War and traveling. So, I'm not one-sided to anything. I was open to being corrected by Mr. McCann in that moment because he gave me an education. He said it's called Sunshine Laws here in Ohio. Not one to be ignorant. I went and educated myself 1,000% on Sunshine Laws. I took classes. I got CEs. I'm a know-it-all. At my work, people would ask me questions, and I would always have the answer. My mom asked me something today. She says, "Do you know that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And she's like, Jesus, I can't help it. I'm not trying to be an ass. This is just what my brain does. I either go over there onto the PlayStation and I drown it all out, or go back here to the books and I educate, or I just sit at home and watch documentaries. I don't watch TV shows anymore. My mom asked me how I knew something that I think was about, she said, "Did you know you weren't supposed to paint a deck 3 months until 3 months after, you laid it?" Because I said, "Because it needs a cure." And she's like, "How'd you?" I was like, "I watched some dumb, boring documentary that came on." We used to watch the same Animal Channel stuff so much that my brother was like, "Hey, look, this is the part where the so-and-so gets the so-and-so." And we'd always make fun of the fact that the British people say things differently. And it was really funny to listen to them say it. What was the monkey? Macaque. The macaque. No, dude, it's a macaque. No, stop, Aaron. No. And so, like, I just knew this stuff, and so I educated myself because I didn't like to be uneducated. So McCann came back all snarky with honestly with the authority of someone who graduated in 12th grade and went to the Coast Guard. I mean, with a C average, he came back like he was hard. And I was like, all right, game on. I figured he's a chief of police. He's got an education. I didn't realize I was like dealing with like, I'm not going to say challenged, but he obviously had some challenges. I mean, people used to say, well, he's done a great job. Well, yeah, honestly, for someone who had a D average in school, and I think he's done amazing. He was making more than a sitting U.S. senator. But he educated me on the records process, and I learned that they have a reasonable amount of time, and that's always been questioned, like what's reasonable. But if a record's withheld, there's must be a legal basis. If a request is denied, that denial must be explained in some way, shape, or form. That's the structure. That's how transparency is supposed to work. I mean, I literally have a whole page full on my other page, my unplugged page, that you can buy a whole packet on how to request records. I've even got layouts that you can use and put your name and stuff in. They're set up in a PDF form that you can just fill out for you. I've done it all. I've even offered to give out a bunch of free ones to the first like 50 people that give me a boost on my my little thing, but nobody took me up on it. I get it. Not many people are requesting records. It's not, it's not a moneymaker. It's really just there to support the news channel that I do for free. Now, but I learned all this stuff, and that's the structure, right? That's how transparency is supposed to work. But what I encountered was not a simple process of request and response, right? I was told records did not exist, only later to get them. I was told requests were too broad, and when I narrowed them, the explanation changed again. I was told communications were not subject to disclosure, only to later see the same communications referenced in other materials, and other times just pushing and getting them. Every time it happened, it created another question. Because the record itself, it's showing that the original response is incomplete, right? I come with receipts, people. That's the one good thing I can tell you about social work, is that they teach you at OSU a very strong ethic on making sure you do your research. So, because the record itself was showing that the original response was incomplete, that's not a single mistake. That's a pattern. Once you start documenting that pattern, right, that's when the process itself starts to become the story. And it did. At some point, the focus shifted. It's no longer about what you're asking for. It becomes about who's asking for the items and who's asking the questions. I mean, complaints were filed regarding misconduct, retaliation, improper conduct. Those complaints should have been evaluated on their merits, from me to them, but that's what the system is designed to do, right? But internal communication shows something a little bit different. The conversations were happening about how to handle the situation. The situation. Who should conduct the investigations? Whether outside agencies should be involved. Stanford Washington suggested that, and shortly thereafter he was removed because he was weak, is what the mayor told Garen. And they put Ray Carey on it, which they were already planning to do. They had Ray come to my house and meet with me as my councilman, so he set the stage. And at that stage, he told me, sometimes, Aaron, it's not the ask, it's the asker. And that was over a dog situation, that a dog had bit me, and I was trying to report it. And my neighbor, who was a police officer outside the area at the time, wanted to shoot it, and they said we couldn't shoot dogs. And then, that cop shot that dog. Anyway, so the discussion was not limited to the underlying allegation, right? It kind of expands itself to the process itself, the response, the involvement of multiple entities. And then there's this moment where everything changes, where every complaint, every filing, every issue is compiled, sent to the prosecutor's office. Not just a complaint under review, not just a single incident, but everything, right? There's not a normal investigative step. That's collection. That's the creation of a record where a citizen who is filing complaints against the government, and once that happens, what is that? Ew, something was stuck on my face there. Anyway, it's no longer about like whether the complaint's valid. It becomes why the response is the complaint involves multiple agencies reviewing the person who filed it. So it was literally known as it was an investigation into McCann, and it's called the Knapp investigation. A complaint's supposed to lead to a resolution. It's supposed to result in an answer. But what I documented and what I wrote, even after in this most recent one, the City Hall after the gavel, is what happens when a complaint doesn't end. It continues. It turns into a second incident, like it did with Carry On. It becomes a continuation of the same conflict, even after everything has already been placed on the record. Because at that point, the system knows the complaints have been filed, the issues have been raised, the obligations are clear. And yet, in a public meeting from the dais in front of the council and the public, there's a direct confrontation involving Safety Service Director Ray Carry On. That moment doesn't exist in isolation. It exists, after I notified them of my complaints, my ADA complaints, after I told them that these types of behaviors were inappropriate and they shouldn't be speaking to me that way, after I gave them documentation of my disability from the VA, after the system had already been put on notice, right? And when an incident occurs after all of that, it tells you something. It was a year later, they hadn't addressed it. And then after it happens, then they start deciding they're going to address it a little bit. That was when they put up the new signs. That's when they came up with their new, big ass sign that they put on the wall in City Hall saying how nice they were going to be to everybody. Because I filed an ADA complaint against them, which they still haven't addressed, right? Bradley's still sitting over there going, well, we're not going to fucking do anything because we don't care about you, Aaron. You're not a citizen. We don't work for you. Fuck you. That's what they tell me, right? So you guys ask why I go down there and act the way I do. Well, if you don't understand that, how about fuck you? Like, really? You don't get it. Now, in a million years, can you see the reason, the little connection of A, B, C, D, E, F, G? If you hadn't left me alone, I wouldn't have to go F you. Because when an incident occurs after all of that, it tells you something. It tells you the process isn't correcting the issue. It's carrying it forward. And it's using the ammunition I gave them, which was where my disability was. Ray did everything that I asked them not to do in one fell swoop. And yet I'm the problem. I told them, if you yell at me like that and get in my face, what the reaction would always be, medically and mentally. And they got exactly that. They knew exactly what they were going to get when they got it. Only I think they expected me to hit somebody or something, which I'm never going to do, or even argue. I just smiled and said, okay, I'm asking you the same questions. I have a right to ask you these questions. But at that point, it's no longer about meetings and records. It moved into the assertion of legal rights. Like my attorney and an ADA advocate came up with an accommodation request, and it was submitted clearly, specifically outlining what exactly was required to ensure equal access to public meetings. That request created obligations under the federal law, right? Fuck county and city law. These assholes do whatever they want here. I've already told that. Unfortunately, I had to break some hearts in and just be like, look, it's not that you're not a good lawyer. It's that they don't want to let you win, because if they let you win, it makes their house of cards come crashing down. They don't like truth tellers. They don't like honest lawyers. They don't like honest public servants. Those people get canned. They get attacked. You get people going after Duran. You get people going after my attorney. You get people going after Petty, after Mauricio. Yeah, sure, you guys want to tag on other stuff. James doesn't have the greatest of records, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not a judge that's held to a higher standard, leaving his courtroom, storming into a hallway and acting like a stormtrooper in Nazi Germany. Your papers, please! What is your purpose for visiting the magistrate court today? Why are you here, Mr. Mauricio? Never mind that. Guards, take him away. Pull out the laser. The request created obligations, folks. Title II, Americans with Disabilities Act. Whether you guys like it or not, oh, boo, he's a puss. Oh, well, it prohibits discrimination. It prohibits retaliation. It prohibits interference with the exercise of those rights. And yet there was no meaningful response, no accommodation, no resolution. When that happens, this issue is no longer procedure. It becomes legal. The city's already on notice. The obligations are defined. The question becomes, what happens next when those obligations aren't met? So, they're going to do an investigation. The results are going to be presented to the public. No criminal charges will be done. That'll be the threshold. It'll mean that the elements of the crime offense were not met or something in their minds, but it won't. It won't address civil liability. None of this does. None of this, any of the issues they've had with me, from McCann to Carry On, does not address policy violations. It doesn't address retaliation. But that's how it's understood, right? Not how it's ever understood. I mean, because my name is attached to that conclusion, and everyone hates Aaron. There's no requirement that it be. There's no context provided. There's no explanation of what legal standard actually means. The underlying record, it's not released usually. The evidence is not presented. What the public receives is a simplified narrative. My name paired with the declination. And that matters, just like with his gun law. Because without context, just like with McCann, a declination doesn't mean he's guilty. Everyone's like, oh, he was exonerated. Fuck off. No, he wasn't. The people who he holds, sway over did the bare minimum. That's not exonerated. Exonerated is going to court and winning. What he did was they said, oh, well, we're not going to do that because he's got something on us. So, whatever. Because without context, the public's going to interpret that as a judgment. It becomes a statement about credibility rather than legal threshold. And that has consequences, not just for me, but for anyone who considers coming forward, right? Any whistleblower, anyone that wants to go after, the government for false laws. And then after all of that bullshit, after all the complaints, after the records fights, after the investigations, after the ADA notice, after the incident involving Carrie on the first time, after everything's on the record, he comes at me again, gives me a fat chest bump, hits me with a fucking door. You guys can be all mad as you want. I was in a public area. I was leading to a public doorway, the public doorway that literally is the exit that I leave out of every night that I go there. That is a handicap access ramp that I have full access to. He was standing behind an open office door. He could have walked in at any time. He crossed the hallway. My back camera shows that I never moved forward towards him. I was walking in the general direction. He came back towards me. You clearly see that in the stills in the video. And then your chief of police, who is lawfully bound to take my report, refused on video. Then you sent a 3-striper to my house and you still didn't take my report, knowing that I had a report to file. So yeah, you guys fucking suck. And anyone that supports that fucking sucks. And if you believe that in any way, shape, or form that I was wrong, fine, whatever, that's on you. But it doesn't matter. What matters is raise a public servant. He isn't going to treat anyone that way. Sure. And so, and then that's the problem, is that for, it's going to make anyone that wants to come forward, like,
y'all want to see my favorite panda?
Like,
that we don't look.
not, it's going to make anyone who considers coming forward not want to come forward. And then after all of that, after all the complaints, after all the records fights, and after the investigations, the notice, the incidents, right? Everything on the record, they decide, oh, let's ban him from City Hall, right? And it didn't happen at first. It happened last. That sequence is the entire story, folks. Because City Hall is not just a building. It is where public business is conducted. It's where meetings are held. It's where the records are accessed. It's where citizens engage with their government. And it's where, when access to that space is removed, the issue changes completely, right? It's no longer about what happened in the meeting or what records were provided or how a complaint was handled. It's about whether a citizen who documents their government, challenges their government, and asserts their rights can continue to participate in the system at all. And when that removal follows everything else, the questions become unavoidable. Is this about conduct, or is it about response? I mean, this isn't a finished story, folks. There are lawsuits pending, including retaliation claims connected to these events, which is why Ray's so mad. There are federal issues that have been raised under the ADA, as well as my federal lawsuit against them for retaliation and tort claims of interference with a contract. There are public records disputes that are still ongoing against the city of Lorain that are racking up thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you guys keep doing this, and you're gonna have to pay Bob so much money, he's just gonna retire.
My dad could use that.
There are questions that have not been answered, but the records still exist. The meetings exist. The emails exist. The complaints exist. The notices exist. The incidents exist. And now the consequences are going to need to start existing. This didn't start out as a fight. It started out as a question. But once you follow the record far enough, you reach a point where the question no longer is what happened in any single one incident. It becomes whether the system itself is capable of being examined without trying to control the outcome and beat the fuck out of whoever is trying to examine it. Now, and that's the question that's now moving beyond the meetings, beyond the records, and into the courts. Because at some point, the record has to speak for itself. At that point, it's going to bring us to the end of our first section. We'll do a quick little ad break here, and we will return shortly with part 2. Thank you guys for tuning in so far, and I will return shortly.
If you own a business and you want to reach customers right here in Lorain County and Vermilion, this is your opportunity, folks. Advertising space is now available in Lorain Daily, Vermilion Daily, and DNC Radio. That means your business can reach local readers, local listeners, and a highly engaged community audience. And here's a bonus. For a small add-on fee, your business will also be advertised once per episode on my podcast, Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, as long as your ad remains active on one of those two platforms. This is web exposure plus podcast exposure in one package. If you're interested in advertising, contact me now to reserve your spot through Facebook, email, or reach out directly. Ad space is limited and local visibility matters, folks.
The banger of the song. This is the VA. Well, you get the dick way. I listen to this all the time. I go to my meds, VA stuff. Like any veteran out there will have the banger of the song. All right, folks, we're back here after segment one. This first break, and this is the point where the individual incidents stop being isolated and they start to look like a pattern, right? This is one of the hardest things to explain to people who are not living inside of it, right? If you take a look at any one event and look at it by itself, it can always be explained away, right? It can be minimized, reframed, dismissed as a misunderstanding, or reduced to personalities. That's how the system protects itself. They keep everything separated so nothing ever has to be examined on the whole. And when you have lived through it like I have, and when you've documented it as I have, and when you have the records, the emails, the transcripts, the videos, the outcomes, those incidents stop looking separate and they begin to line up. I pointed that out multiple times in my timeline. They begin to follow the same structure, and when it becomes clear that you're not dealing with a series of unrelated events, you're actually dealing with a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over and over and over and over again, regardless of who's involved or what the original issue was. Well, that's where this becomes bigger than me, bigger than Garen, bigger than any one complaint. Because what begins to emerge is not just a dispute, it's not just a disagreement, it's a way of operating. It is a system that responds in a consistent way when challenged, whether challenge comes through public records, request, a complaint, a courtroom proceeding, or a citizen just standing up in a public meeting. Literally just standing, because I've been yelled at for that too. Once you see that, once you document that, it changes how you interpret everything else. So, Terry Soto can get up and speak twice, but when I do it, I'm a problem. So Tia Hilton can come in and cuss the entire room out, but when I, get in an argument with Ray Carrion over questions in a hallway after a meeting, I'm suddenly attacked. Garen Petty, they try to go after him criminally, but they don't go after Paula, they don't go after Jane, they don't go after Tia, they don't go after anybody else that's come in there and yelled at them, cussed at them, gone after them, but yet they come after me. And I'm not saying you should, because I think coming after anybody that goes in their meetings or addresses their government for anything short of physical violence is bullshit. Straight up, utterly bullshit. I don't understand why they think they can act the way that they can act, because it doesn't begin with the biggest cases. It never does. It begins with the little small things, the routine things, the everyday interactions that should never escalate. Parking tickets that should have been handled administratively become prolonged disputes because the city didn't understand what they were doing. Minor issues that should have been resolved quickly begin to involve multiple layers of response because they want to hide things. And when you look at how those situations are handled in the grand scheme, you begin to see the same characteristics appear time and time and time and time again. Issues that should be resolved quickly are extended. Process that's supposed to protect fairness becomes something that can be used to apply pressure. Outcomes begin to feel less tied to the facts and more tied to who the people are involved. And those are the kind of things that are easy to dismiss if you only look at them once. But when they keep repeating themselves, when they follow the same pattern across different situations, they stop being small and they become indicators of just how the system actually functions and maybe how corrupt it may be. That same pattern doesn't just stop at the city hall, it carries into the courtroom. Contempt powers are supposed to be used carefully, but you got Mihawk flinging them around like they're candy. They're supposed to be reserved for situations where it's clear disruption of proceedings or refusal to comply with court orders. They are supposed to maintain order, not control participation. But when you see a judge like Mihawk using contempt in ways that raises questions, and he doesn't even know the fucking code, I mean, you got the codes mixed up. That was his first mistake, and no one caught it for 13 years? Really? And you guys want me to trust these yahoos? Fuck off. When it appears to escalate situations rather than resolve them, it shouldn't. It becomes part of the same pattern that we see. It was a money generator. I mean, Miak literally called the people the revenue stream. And you guys just fucking ignored that? Oh, you're the revenue stream. We weren't sure how it would affect the revenue stream. The people? So the money you're bringing in on parking tickets is what pays for your little court security up there. It's been there forever that comes down and try to bully people when they're exercising their rights. But hey, this comes another example of the process being used not as a safeguard, but as a tool to make money for them. And that's where the incident involving Mihawk and Mauricio becomes important, because it's not just one moment, but because of what it represents. In that situation, what should have been a controlled courtroom, a controlled hallway environment, I should say, became something else entirely. The interaction escalated. The authority of the court was not just exercised, it was asserted in a way through raised questions about proportionality and conduct that would make a grown man sick. What followed was not a simple resolution of a legal issue, folks. It became a confrontation that extended beyond the underlying matter. And when you look at that incident, when you're looking at a disagreement between a white judge and a black man, and you're looking at how power is exercised when it's challenged, when you're looking at how quickly the situation can move from procedural to personal, from structure to escalate, that matters. Because the courtroom is supposed to be, that court hallway, I guess, is supposed to be a place where the disputes are resolved. Not anywhere, in fact. He was at the clerk's window getting paperwork. Mihawk comes out because of a man with a fucking camera. What does he care? He's retiring anyway, right? He didn't care what he costs us. He can't run again. You should care. Because that hall was supposed to be safe. And it's supposed to be a place where James could go and get his paperwork. And it's supposed to be neutral. And it's supposed to be controlled and grounded in rules. And when that space becomes to reflect the same pattern you see everywhere, escalation, pressure, and control, it raises a much larger question about where accountability actually exists in this county. People in law enforcement here are a bunch of fucking bullies. There, I said the quiet part out loud. You guys are bullies. You think you can do whatever you want. You think you can boss grown people around, and you can't. Not unless there's actual crimes afoot. And then there are these moments that were never meant to be public, right? The conversations that happen when people believe they're speaking privately, hot mics, emails, statements said off the record that reveal how situations and decisions are being discussed behind the scenes, right? Garen Petty has some dash cam footage where a sitting council member speaking over a speakerphone states that the council at the time was plotting against him. Not speculation, not interpretation. That's a direct statement captured in real time from someone inside the system. And that matters because it cuts through the narrative. It shows that what's happening is not always accidental. It's not always reactive. Sometimes it's discussed. I want you to take into account that in that video, or in the incident where I was assaulted at Madhouse, the person I was talking to was Victoria Kempton for over 4 hours. Current city councilwoman, previous city councilwoman. I mean, you guys don't like to believe it, but these people are human too, and they talk to people. So Garen has her on recording on his dash cam, clearly saying out loud that city council, before going after Garen criminally, was in there trying to figure out a way to get Garen. So if they were doing that, that's not something that would have been considered executive session. That's considered a violation because they were discussing city business while a group on how to conspire to attack a citizen. Now, if we have audio file of that, which I just learned of recently, then honestly, there should be charges brought because now we have a sitting city councilwoman saying that other city council people, including one that's now running for Congress or Senate or whatever crap job and is our auditor assistant, conspired to go after him. You have that on record, and it's not Garen, it's Victoria Kempton. And again, Victoria, I've helped you out a lot. I'm tired of watching you play nice with them and not doing your job. You have an honor and oath that you're supposed to follow, and you're not doing it. You can be mad at me for saying it all you want. You've acknowledged it multiple times to my face, but you won't do it when it matters. And that's the problem. You see what they're doing. You know what they did. You know what they've done to me. You know what they've said and done to Garen. It is your obligation to step up and speak. And you've been caught on multiple recordings doing just that, and yet you do nothing. And you're not the only one. I have multiple people on recording. I mean, hey, I have this recording of Damaki yelling at Phallus. You know, you guys' stuff isn't as quiet as you want to think. Everyone got mad because I showed that Damaki video. They started blaming it on his ex. I didn't get it from his ex. That video, as multiple people said, circulated multiple times. I didn't know what it was. I've posted it many times. No one's ever gotten this interested over it until recently. And you can be mad as you want, but I have text messages where Jack Hall said literally to me, "Is that Garen? I mean, is that Garen? Is that Aiden's house?" I'd like to know. Like, the insinuation is that it was a drug house. I didn't know any better. Now you guys are coming out with a different narrative. I changed that narrative as soon as someone told me, but it was Megan that told me, and I've done my research on that. Well, he didn't teach her. He was definitely teaching high school while Megan was in. No, he was teaching junior high while Megan was in high school. But anyway, like, yeah, folks, I don't come by these things by accident. And if you think that these videos I have right now, the few that I've released and the few little pieces that I've released, they're all I have, you're crazy. I mean, I have so many text messages between me and Hall. As I told him back then, you know, you wanted to get into office, you create scenarios. I never sent him anything unethical. I never said anything, you know, that I felt was unethical in those times. But even if I did, I'm not afraid to stand up and be, you know, in retrospect, be punished for anything that I may be judged by my fellow man. But the problem is nobody else is willing to do that. I've proven that many times. I've come out and said, yeah, I got duped by Hall and Silo and Brimke. I mean, again, I got a judge that literally like was hanging out with me and Garen while Garen was carrying, pointing out that you know, she doesn't know we carry when she knew Garen carried. Well, I carried a table and election signs over to her for at Veterans Park while Tim Williams was there. All these people want to act like they're not intertwined, like they don't know we carry. Fuck, you know we carry. Mary's the one running around telling everybody Garen owns guns. The audacity of you people. But that doesn't even matter. We don't have to tell you that in Ohio because it's a constitutional carry state. What she did was she listened to the lawyers of the city because those people control the permits. I mean, again, I'm not saying that it's fact, but it's hard to look away from the fact that both her and Judge Glass's husbands both own property and bar here in this city and require this city's law department to keep them in the up and up. But hey, maybe it's not that, right? Maybe as a journalist who does investigations, I'm not supposed to think that way. That a judge wouldn't actually read the complaint that actually has the standing in it. That a judge wouldn't take the time to read what was submitted. I would never accuse a judge of that. But when I read what was put out, it sure seems that way. But hey, what do I know, right? I'm not a judge. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an elected official. I'm not somebody that ignores the Constitution. But hey, it just shows that what's happening isn't always accidental. And it's not always reactive. Sometimes it's discussed. Sometimes it's understood internally in a way that is never acknowledged publicly. Once you have that, once you hear that, once it changes the way you look at everything else. Because now the question is not whether these outcomes are coincidental. The question is whether they're expected. And they are. I just saw it in the emails they gave me from Jeff Graham and his crew. They planned to hire Mariah Ballard. They planned all of that. And they admitted it in their email saying they wanted to hide it and to say less. McCann has said that in his email. Say less. They're looking to sue. Come on, guys. You just don't want to take the time to admit the fucking truth. If anyone can prove me wrong, do it. Prove me wrong. I challenge anyone. Hey, Holloway, you're always talking shit. Prove me wrong, fatso. Get your big fat lazy ass up and prove me wrong. All you other bitches that come at me, prove me wrong. Where's Hilton at? Where's Baez at? Where's McCann at? Should I turn my hearing aid up for you? They're in the same places you're going to be. Because you can keep acting like nobody sees you, but we all see you. And the only difference is now is that everybody's seen little me go up against Goliath and get a couple of shots in. And for the record, it was $2,500, not $25,000. Somebody was posting on a lot of the sites. I couldn't respond for a while. And they were posting all these sites, and I won $2,500 from my lawyer. That was it. I didn't get a shit ton of money off these records cases. I haven't made anything off these people. I might, but that's the only way you hold them accountable. But if they think that what I've released is all I've got, and they don't think that I don't have hard drives laying all over my house, videos laying all over my house, that I don't have stuff stored other places. I mean, again, this hard drive alone, right here, this one alone has so much stuff on it. I'm pretty sure it's sent several county and city officials to jail. But I keep trying to give these people outs because again, you gotta draw it out a little bit anyway. You gotta keep people interested, I'm running a news media campaign here, corporation here, or LLC, whatever you want to call it. I don't make any money unless y'all donate to that right there. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not about that. It's about telling these people what they're doing is wrong, and that we, the people, are here to say it's wrong, and we're not going to take no for an answer. And you can ban me from City Hall. I'll just send other people with my cameras. Imagine one of my friends with a video standing there in front of you with me on it, Zoom, talking to you. You don't get rid of me just because you don't like me. I am a journalist. I am asking questions, and you are giving an interview to another journalist when you slammed the door on me and assaulted me, Ray Carrion. So I don't know what else to tell you. I know you thought I was going to react because I gave you all of the evidence that I would react, and I have reacted in the past. But see, once I knew you guys were going to use that against me, I solided it up. Shore that shit up, right? Didn't let you use it against me. I didn't let your little freaking breath get all stank up on me and get me mad. I didn't care that your little hot breath was up on me. The camera's looking up like that. You're on a little bit of an angle, but yeah, it's looking right up your fucking nose. You turned around and came back to me. I didn't go to you. That's clear in the video. That's clear in the body cam. See, you guys thought you could sell the narrative because you thought only what you saw in the live was what you had. You haven't even seen the other camera angles yet. And how do you know that it was only the three I'm telling you? You know what you did, Ray? There's a quick and simple way to solve this. You guys pay me, and I forget it ever happened. I'll deal with all this other stuff. I'll even sign an NDA. But you're paying me. And you pay me the exact amount that you can pay out from your little fund. So the mayor can authorize up to what, $70K? I'll take your maximum authorization, and I'll sign an NDA to never talk about the fact that Ray assaulted me again. And that's the only offer you ever get that's reasonable. It's the only NDA you'll ever get out of me, because I will still talk about everything else. But I will promise not to talk about the fact that Ray assaulted me, and I won't go forward with charges. But you're going to pay me. And I don't care what people say. That's the only way to hold them accountable. Admission of guilt. Or money. But the emails, because the conversations can be denied, right? They can be reframed. They can be explained away. Written communication creates a record that cannot be easily dismissed, folks. I have emails showing that ongoing communication between Safety Service Director Ray Carrion, Councilwoman Mary Springowski over an extended period of time for 2 years discussing how to address me how to handle me, and how to find a legal avenue to deal with me. Not one message, not one exchange, but a continued discussion over 2 years. That matters because it shows intent, shows pattern, shows modus operandi. It shows that this is not simply a reaction to one event or one complaint, which again, they can't go back to previous incidences of speech and try to now criminalize them. It shows that there's an ongoing effort to determine how to respond to specific individual. What really cracks me about that is these are supposedly the two people going up against each other in the new mayor's race. So what? I'm the one thing that can bond them together. Here's an idea, guys. If you really want to piss them off, do a write-in vote for me on the mayor. I don't want to run again, honestly. But if you all write me in, I'll be mayor. But it shows that strategy is being discussed between two people that are supposedly going to be running for mayor, and that options are being considered, and that a path is being sought. That's not neutral. That's not incidental. That is coordination. They've coordinated against me. Once that's part of the record, it becomes the pattern. It becomes conspiracy. Say what you want. Then you get a response from the outside, and the people who are seeing pieces of this, not the full record, right? They say, well, why are you still talking about this? Why don't you just move on? Why not just let it go? They say Garen should just forget it. You should just move on. It's not worth it. And that argument only works if you're looking at one incident. Because if you isolate any one moment, it's easy to minimize it, right? It's easy to say, well, it's not that serious. It's easy to say, well, hey, it's time to move on. When you look at everything together, the meetings, the records, the investigations, the emails, the courtroom incidences, the statements captured all on video, that argument does not hold because you're not looking at one event. You're looking at a pattern that keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And it's not about holding on to something that should be let go. It's about documenting something that continues to happen. And if it stopped, there would be nothing to document. If the process worked, there would be nothing to challenge. If the system corrected itself, there would be nothing to pursue. But that's not what the record shows. The record shows repetition. The record shows escalation. The record shows coordination. And when that continues, the question is not whether someone keeps pushing. The question is why it keeps happening, folks. At some point, the most concerning part of any of this is the fact that this pattern is normal to you now. It becomes expected. People begin to assume that's just how things are done. That's just how the system works. That's just, if you challenge it, that's what happens. People said that on my things. You can't win. You can't challenge it. They're going to stop you. They may be right. Give me liberty or give me death, I guess, right? And once that becomes normalized, accountability breaks down. Because what should be questioned is accepted as normal. What should be examined is ignored. And that's why this whole record matters, not because of one case, not because of one person, but because the same pattern appears across multiple, different people, across different situations, and across different parts of the system, and it stops being individual and it starts being structural. Once it becomes structural, it's no longer something that can just be dismissed. It's something that has to be answered. That brings us to our next ad break, folks. I want to thank you guys for staying tuned. We've got a couple more little sections here to go through, but I know this is a little bit more controlled type style today, but I wanted to just get these points out and let everyone know that they're being misled and why. Our next section is going to be when accountability becomes a target. And this is the point where we stop asking what we're seeing as coincidence and start asking whether the system is working exactly as it intended to attack us. So stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorraine Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations. and all of their shows. They put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry.
All right, guys. Now we're ready to this next section. There comes a point when you have to stop asking whether what you're seeing is coincidence, right? And start asking whether the system's just doing what it's supposed to do, just trooping right along over you. Because when you step back and look at what's happening, not just to me, but to anyone who refuses to fall in line, the pattern stops being subtle. Stops being something you can explain away, and it becomes something you can trace, right? You can follow the blood of the people, the reputations, and the careers that they've destroyed. It becomes something you can trace, something you can recognize, something you can see repeating over and over and over again, right? Pattern's not complicated. When they cannot beat your argument, they will go after your ability to make it. I mean, heck, look what they did to Elizabeth Baumgartner. They went after her license. They're going after my license. They went after, my attorney's license. They've gone, all of these people, this is their go-to plan. Go after where you're powerful. Take away what's powerful. And if they take that away, they can make you a fraud. That's why sometimes saying that stuff out loud up front when someone steals something from you is the most important part of it, acknowledging it so that it doesn't go away. But that's where this has gone. It's no longer about whether the law is being followed. It's no longer about whether records are being withheld. It's no longer about whether rights are being violated. It's shifted into something deeper, much deeper and more dangerous. It's shifted into making sure that the people raising those issues no longer are in a position to raise them at all. That's it. They want to destroy us. Me, my attorney, anyone that supports me. That's the real story here, folks. The real consequence is not the case. It's the person. Most people think the consequence of challenging the government is losing the case. They think that it's a risk. If you go to court, you lose, you move on with your life. No, that's the version people are comfortable believing because it makes the system feel fair. It's not how it works. The real consequence is that you became the case. Your name starts showing up in places it shouldn't. Your name starts being discussed in rooms you're not in. You become something that needs to be managed, something that needs to be addressed, something that needs to be dealt with. I've literally seen those in emails, those very words: managed, dealt with, addressed. Once that happens, everything changes. The focus shifts away from what you said and onto who you are as a person. Your credibility will get questioned and destroyed. Your intent will get questioned and picked apart. Your stability will get questioned. And actually, they'll do everything they can to destroy your stability. They'll take your job, your livelihood, everything they can from you. They'll force you to lose cases. They'll force you to do whatever they can if you don't go their way. And again, I thought this kind of bullshit was like, secret society kind of shit you only see in movies. But apparently, every part of you becomes the narrative except the actual issue that you raised. That's not accidental. It's a strategy. And when the law does not stop, if they can't stop you, they're going to go after your license. Because if the law can't be used to stop you, right? They can't beat you up. They can't get you restraining orders. They can't attack you anywhere else. They'll go after your license. They'll go after your license to practice law. They'll go after your license to practice social work. They'll go after your license. They go after your ability to work and make money. That's what they do. They go after the one thing that allows you to stand in a professional space and speak with authority. That's the city of Lorain. That's the county of Lorain. I lived that reality. Complaints that were not about protecting the public, but about creating pressure. Complaints built on misrepresentation designed to force me into a defensive position. Designed to make me spend time explaining myself instead of continuing the work. And this is the part people don't see unless they've been through it and won't see. Ever. Even if you win, you still lose. You lose time, you lose energy, you lose focus. You lose minutes of your life. You're focused to respond to things that should have never been filed in the first place. And even when you're cleared, even when the record shows there was nothing there, the damage has already been done because the process itself was the punishment. Running you through that ringer was the punishment. They do it to me. They do it to my attorney. They do it to other people. I've seen other attorneys have it done to them. 1 minute you're the star of the show. The next minute they're talking about you peeing in bushes outside of the Avon Lake courts. But hey, whatever. This is how the system slows you down without ever having to prove you did a damn thing wrong. You may be exonerated from that, but now everybody knows you as the guy peeing in the bushes. And when you see it happen to your attorney or other attorneys, you see it happen to government officials, that's what changes everything. you realize it's not just you. It's anyone willing to stand by you, anyone standing next to you, anyone standing beside you. You know, Bob Vargas has practiced law for decades in this town. He's built a career on following the Constitution, on taking all the cases that the others would avoid, of being honest, of standing up in front of his peers and other people and always being truthful. Arguing the law as it's written. He doesn't adjust his position based on who's in front of or on who's in front of him. He doesn't soften his arguments to make them easier to accept. And he does not treat the Constitution as something that changes depending on the moment. And because of that, he becomes the problem. Not because he's wrong, not because he doesn't play, mainly because he won't play ball with them. When you have someone who refuses to bend, the system does not respond by engaging with the argument. It responds by trying to discredit the person making it. I want to point out, I know Bob's had inspectors from the city come by his office. I know that Dennis Flores has had people come by and inspect his house randomly out of the blue. It's how they do it, right? They use city resources against you. They attack you. They beat you. They attack your credibility. They go after your law license. They file complaint after complaint. I want you to imagine I've had like 2 complaints against my 2 licenses and against the license I don't even hold, and Lee Prue going after me for UPL. And then that same person will like stories I post, will follow me on Facebook. All these people will. Dave Vandersum, the fucking the city engineer, will get on my page during a work day and watch my lives, and they'll act like they don't know they exist. Give me a break. If you guys want me to believe that horse shit, give me a break. If you want me to believe that none of this is planned, come on. It's all planned. That's why they want to give me the emails. Because the second I start getting them, just like I did with the school's emails, they're literally talking about conspiring to hide information from the public in those emails that no one gives a shit. Price is doing business, right? That's where this stops being about one case, one client. It becomes something larger because the lawyer, or when a lawyer who follows the law becomes a target, that's not about accountability. That's about control. They went after Bob because he's helping me. That's it. They're trying to say he's doing this, that, and the other. No. You guys are going after him because of me. You're going after Garen now because of me. You're going after anyone associated with me. The message is clear. Stay quiet or pay the price. Now, what this creates is not a fair system. It creates a warning. If you speak up, you're going to be labeled. If you push back, you'll be targeted. You'll refuse to fall in line. They'll find a way to make it cost you something. Your job, your license, your reputation, a couple of good fucking ass whippings. And the most dangerous part about not what they do, it's how everyone in this city responds to it in the county, right? Because instead of asking why this keeps happening to people, you just start fucking accepting it, right? You just repeat the narrative. Oh, well, there must be a reason. You must have done something, because why else would all this be happening? Ray's a nice guy. Bradley's a nice guy. That's how they get you. That's how the system protects itself. It turns on the person exposing the issue into the issue itself. And it's not just about me. This is about what happens next. Because if this works, going after licenses and livelihoods becomes accepted response to accountability, then the message spreads far beyond me, far beyond Bob, far beyond anyone. It reaches anyone watching. And the message is simple, pretty much. Don't get involved. Don't question the authority. Don't push. Because if you do, it will just be your, it will not just be your argument that gets challenged. It'll be your life. We're going to steal it from you. We're going to take it. We're going to take your job. We're going to take your reputation. We're going to take anything we can steal from you. Because that's how we are. We're motherfuckers like that. That's the way your city works, right? Mob mentality out here in Cleveland. Listen here, Johnny. You ratted on us. And then here we don't allow rats. So now, unfortunately, you're going to have to sleep with the fishes. And I don't mean the fish sisters, okay? We're going to have to sink you. Because you ain't got no friends, Johnny. You got nobody. That message is simple. Because if you do, it'll be your life. That's what people need to understand. It's bigger than any one case, bigger than any one filing, bigger than any one decision. My daughter gets to see videos sent to her about people about me. My daughter's had people send her the videos of me being beat up. My daughter's seen videos of Tia Hilton talking crap about me on Madhouse, and Madhouse supporting, discussing me being beat up. My daughter's seen all of this, and I'm not saying I wasn't a party to all this stuff. She's just seen it. It's the fact of the matter. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's just a fact. I worked really hard for all this shit up here on the wall, and they just tried to steal it from me. McCann did try to steal it from me. Baez, all of these people participated. Why do you think Karen don't like me? Got rid of Baez, his little pet project, and the one that he brought in. I harangued and harassed, it was apparently his boy, Arroyo, even though I didn't. All I did was run against him, and I haven't really said anything about him since, even though I know he'll never respond to me, my emails, or anything other than just to be snarky ass to me in public. But this really becomes down to, this is about whether people can challenge their government without fear of being personally destroyed in doing so. The answer to that question is no. Then we're looking at a system of anarchy, not accountability, as a system of control. And that's a line that, has already been crossed. So we're going to roll into section 3 here in a second. I'm going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. Problem with that too is going to be, for 20 some odd years I've been listening to that tune on the phone at the VA. It's honestly, I need to get that on my headphones. Like, that's the most calming sound to me now ever, because I spent so much time listening to it. It's like that's my jam. But anyway, we're gonna get down here. When they cannot break the argument, they're gonna try to break you and the people around you, right? There's a moment when you realize it's not isolated, it's personal, and the way that people try to frame it, it's pattern, it's predictable, it's repeatable. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Because it's not just me standing here saying something's wrong. It's everyone who stood beside me. Everyone who's spoken up, everyone who's refused to just let it go or just go along with it. I've seen what happens to them after they did it. Look at Garen Petty. He stood up. He exercised his rights. He challenged what he believed was wrong. What happened? He was targeted, charged, dragged through a system that should have protected his rights instead of turning him into a problem. The narrative shifted away from what he was saying and onto who he was. Not accountability, it's warning. Look at Elliot Palance. Look at James Mauricio. Different situations, different facts, but the same outcomes. The moment you become inconvenient, the moment you push back, the moment you stop accepting what you're told without question, something happens. Something comes down on you, something that forces you to defend yourself instead of continuing to push forward. Right? They find a reason to distract you. And there's me, licensed social worker in a field that's desperately needed, in a community that's constantly talking about shortages, constantly talking about needing qualified professionals, constantly talking about serving vulnerable populations, and yet I can't get a job. Not because I lack credentials, not because I lack experience, not because I lack, anything, but because of what the narrative has been built around my name, because of the narrative that's been created, because of the pressure that exists behind the scenes that people will never admit to publicly. That's how it works. That's the one part they didn't tell you in the social work school is when the government turns on you and tries to use their power and color of law against you, like you're nobody. Not always a direct action you can point to, but it's a cumulative effect. It's phone calls that never happen, interviews that never get scheduled, opportunities that quietly disappear, the silence that follows your name. That's the justice system operating exactly as it intended. I mean, there's a social worker I know that works at a place that I'm not going to mention, but it's not social work. And she saw me out and was talking. It's like, oh, I know who you are. Yeah, like they know me everywhere I go. Someone told my daughter that. It's like, oh yeah, honey, baby, everybody knows your daddy. This was supposed to be simple, and that's not how it was treated. When you look at what just happened in the county court with Brimke, and you have to ask yourself a very simple question. Why was it so hard? This should have been straightforward. This should have been court looking at the law, looking at the record, looking at the rights involved, making a decision based on that. It's what the system's supposed to do. I actually believe she might actually do it. I don't know what happened. What happened was a decision that reads like the city's position was accepted without any meaningful challenge, as if the burden shifted away suddenly from the government to justify its actions onto the individual to prove why they shouldn't be allowed to question it. It's as if the starting point was not neutrality, but skepticism of the person bringing the claim. And you have to ask why. Is it because of the law? Or is it because of who is standing in front of the court? Or could it be because the opposing side is also the city of Lorain's law department, who is also the people who handle all of the permits, all of the law stuff, and between the city council and the city of Lorain, they handle every business's ability to work in the city of Lorain. And I know two judges who have two husbands, or one husband each, who have gone into business together in the city of Lorain. Because when you've done the work, when you've cited the law, when you've built a record, and when you have presented the argument, and it's still dismissed in a way that avoids the actual issue, you cannot ignore the possibility that something else is not at play, or that it is at play. That maybe the problem is not the argument. Maybe the problem is the person making it. It's me. It's Bob. It's whoever. Can't go against the system, right? The attack. That's all social workers are taught to do, is fix the system. Fix the system. I can't stop this any more than they can stop lying. Maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe it's them. The attack does not stop with me. It extends to my attorney. It does not stop with just my attorney. It extends to my friends, to anybody that might be even seen talking to me online. People come out and attack them. How could you talk to him? Amber, what's wrong with you, you traitor? Well, I'm not videoing her. I'm not fucking with her. I'm not doing dumb shit. And that's where this crosses the line that people should be paying attention to, because not just me, it's everyone. There are people out there who want to believe that I'm being controlled. There are people who, that someone else is directing what I do, that my work's not my own, that somehow the ideas, the investigations, the writings, the filings, all this is driven by someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes, and it's just wrong. It's intentionally misleading. Robert Vargas doesn't control me, okay? He doesn't direct what I write. He doesn't direct my journalism. He does not decide what I investigate. He does not tell me what to do. He advises me on legal issues. He advises me on legal issues. He advises me on legal issues. He does not do anything else. He does what an attorney is supposed to do. He provides guidance in the law. He reviews filings. He presents or represents me in court matters. That is the relationship. Everything else that I do, the journalism, the investigations, the advocacy, the decisions to pursue these issues, that's me. It's always been me. I mean, honestly, if you think otherwise, Bob's constantly trying to deter me from saying or doing anything. He's a good attorney. He's saying, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And I say, well, you're not me. And I don't care. Because is it legal? Well, yeah, but it's going to get them mad at you. Oh, well, and it might get them mad at me. Well, then I guess either he's going to have to dump me as an attorney or take the heat. And that sucks for him. I want you to think about that. Should an attorney have to pick and choose his clients based on whether or not it makes the city mad? And is it fair that you would do that? Honestly, all of you who need an attorney, I strongly request that if you need an attorney on matters he can handle, got cash in hand, there you go. You're not looking for a handout, because he's not going to do it for free. I know a lot of you think that. No attorney's going to do it for free. They didn't go to school for all those years to do it for free anymore, and a social worker did. Although I'm probably a bad one to say that because I do it for free all the time. And people ask, what'd you do with the money? Probably give it away, waste it on social services. And it's not a waste to me, but other people will call it a waste. Why don't you invest it? Why don't you do this? Well, I am investing in my community. I might actually fix a street and have it named after me. That's what social workers do, people. Because if you convince yourself that someone else is behind me, then you really wouldn't have to engage on what's being said, right? But what does this say, really, in the grand scheme of things, about our legal community, about all of our lawyers? I want you guys to stop and think. I love my lawyer. I consider him a friend. I think he's a good guy. I like him personally. When it comes to work, though, business is business. And I'm the same way with my social work. If I do some work for you at social work, I've even told Robert that. Like, I've contracted with him on a couple of cases and said, look, If you want me to do this, I'm going to do it all out. I'm not going to side with you. I'm not going to side with them. My job is to the client, and I'm going to do what's right, even if it goes against you, even if you hire me. And he went in understanding that. I put that forth in my contractual obligations to people. I'm not here to be your mouthpiece. I'm here to do the right thing. I'm not going to do something that's ever going to jeopardize my license. And if I feel like I have, I'm going to immediately report myself, because reporting yourself is the only way to save yourself. So what concerns me, and what should concern all of you, you look around your community, you're run by lawyers, right? And social workers, believe it or not. Tim Weitzel, master level licensed social worker. Your probation department head in county, licensed social worker. Social workers are everywhere. We're not therapists like you would think. Some of us are. LPCCs, and like the whole conversation at the school the other day, I met, again, when people call your local licensed professional counselor a guidance counselor, it's insulting. A guidance counselor is your freaking basketball coach, or your in my case, your senior Espanol teacher. Mr. Netta, can I go to the bathroom? En Espanol, por favor. Señorita Arenata, señor Aaron, para. I always forget that part. Este la baño. Whatever. Okay, thank you. She was my guidance counselor. Oh, what school do you want to go to? What classes do you want to take? An LPCC is a licensed professional counselor, has a master's degree, and is licensed to practice as a therapist, and only a therapist, right? They're not social workers. Social workers, we're hybrids. They let us do it because it's a need. We're supposed to be government accountability agents. We're supposed to be standing up and advocating for people who can't advocate for themselves. So we're supposed to have an ethical code. And when I look at how lawyers are supposed to have an ethical code, and I look at the legal community, and I go, well, what should concern people even more is where those ideas are coming from, right? All these people that are lawyers, Giardini, Jack Bradley, Dan Petticourt, Lee Prue, my boy Bob, everybody in the law department from, Riley on down, all their partners. You realize Ohio's run by fucking lawyers, right? Your whole city's run by lawyers. You shouldn't call it it should be like, the law school city or law school on the hill, nothing but lawyers running everything. And unless you're in with them, they're going to blackball you like they do my lawyer, right? He represents me. He's automatically out. That's the way they see it. So you guys go to Robert Gargis, because he's the only honest lawyer in town, in my opinion, but that I've met. When other attorneys start asking those questions, though, when other attorneys start implying that one attorney is controlling a client's voice, controlling their advocacy career or position, you got to step back and ask what that says about the profession. When Rosenbaum is willing to email my lawyer and tell my lawyer to tell me to do something that he, because he doesn't like me emailing him, well, listen, dick, maybe if you weren't telling people that I wasn't a real investigative and reporter. I've done more investigative reporting in this city, in this town, in this county than anyone. Prove me wrong. So when you slander me to my own attorney, it's his responsibility to let me know, and he did. Well, your email is public, just like you made McCann's address public, just like you pointed out that McCann did nothing wrong by emailing me all those times. So when you tried to say me emailing you was a problem, well, why was it? You initiated this by telling my lawyer you didn't think I was an investigative reporter. That gives me pause to protect my brand. And then when you continue to email me like a child, I get it. You can't do anything else but type. That's fine. But you continue to email me until I finally tell you, listen, if you stop responding, I'll stop responding. And you do. That's how this works. But the fact that you believe that you could tell you, Rosenbaum, wheelchair guy, right? Couldn't even control your own Aaron, is going to try to tell this Aaron what to do? No, dude. Fuck off. For God's sakes. You guys realize how fucking insane that sounds? That you guys think I'm supposed to run around and do what these people tell me to do? Bradley believes that shit. He said in a meeting, if I was told what to do, I would just sit down and do it. No, you wouldn't. No, you fucking wouldn't. Because if that's the case, as a citizen telling you what to do, you would do something. You guys are so full of shit, it's not even funny. And I'm so sick of it. I really don't, just you're so fucking annoying. Just all of you. You're self-righteous. You're pricks. You're making triple digits and you're just out here fucking just feeding off the public. And that's just ridiculous. And you want to say, oh, you don't work for the public. Yeah, you don't work for the public, Bradley? Asking, I'm in a public area, bro.
Pretty soon what he's going to do is he's going to say that he can't continue with the meeting because you won't exit.
And that's not my problem. You work for me.
I don't work for you.
You do work for me. I pay taxes. You work for the city of Lorraine. No, there's no agree to disagree, Mayor. Mayor, there's no agree to disagree.
And what they're going to do is they'll just close the meeting.
I mean, honestly, I don't care. They're going to do what they want to do. They've proven that multiple times. That was AJ Mathewson, by the way. This is not how any of this is supposed to work, just so you know. An attorney advises clients, and the client decides, right? You work for me. And even when you worked at the county, Rosenbaum, you worked for us when you fucked us. Honestly, bro, like, what you did to Amber's mom, I can never forgive you for. And you guys can say what you want about me. You can talk all the shit in the world. But once someone matters to me, once I care about someone, it may not show in the normal ways. Love for me doesn't show in normal ways, but I see something in that woman that's just beyond reproach. A soul that has just been locked up inside of her for so long because of what you did. You did this. Between you and Jack, you guys did this. You guys can say what you want. Jack, so many glaring holes in all of this. And again, I've had so many people report that you were doing so many extracurricular activities back then that's not even funny. And are you 1,000% positive that no one's given me proof of that? I mean, I've got people's home videos being sent to me. You guys just should be a lot more careful. I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying, like, if I have this stuff, other people do. And I've had a lot of people message me, go, well, I've got way worse, and I'm not going to give it up unless I know X, Y, Z. So there's a ton of people out there that have a lot of stuff that's really bad on city government that's been very scared to say anything to anyone. And now they see me standing up. And yeah, maybe they see me take some hits. Maybe I get banned. Maybe I get arrested. If you were watching my videos like Dave was, you'd have known I was saying I was waiting for the day you would arrest me at City Hall because it's the only way we elevate this, just like we did with Garen. Only difference is Garen's backed out a little soon because he worried about his health. I, on the other hand, will take it all the way to the Supreme Court. That's the goal here, to win at the Supreme Court. I don't expect us to win here at the local level. And the fact that they allowed me to get basically what amounted to an arrest without an arrest is beautiful. They fucked up. Tim Williams is an idiot. He gave me the letter too soon. Like, you know, he's like a 16-year-old virgin on his wedding night. Just, or 18-year-old, I guess. It just, no control. None whatsoever. Like, I don't understand why you would send that letter to me. I don't understand why Carrion would let it happen, although Carrion seems to be on leave until the 3rd of March. So he's gone. So maybe Tim sent it on his own. Maybe Ray sent it through Tim and then left town. Maybe they told him to. But so he couldn't be interviewed. But then Bradley backed him up by saying, you know, well, if a court decides he's allowed, then we'll. No, bro, that's not how this works. You have to at least charge him with a crime for. But you made it clear in the newspaper article when you backed it up that if I came back, I would be arrested. So under threat of arrest, most auditors will leave an area, and then they'll use that as you threaten to arrest me. So now you guys have stayed on the record under threat of arrest if I return to City Hall that I'll be arrested. Now, what's to keep me from doing that? I don't know. I might actually do it because the arrest is actually so much better physically if you do it. You're just compounding the scenario so that I can actually get this over quicker so that the people can stop being harassed by your unlawful enforcement of laws that don't exist. Because that's structural, right? That's the ethical foundation of the relationship that we're here. When I look at an attorney, Bob's going to tell me what to do. No, he's going to advise me what to do. And I decide. So, well, obviously, I just shifted. Sorry, ADHD. I shifted back to the lawyer story part. So, we're seeing attorneys stepping outside of that when they start making assumptions, when they start projecting their own expectations onto others. Rosenbaum, Sillo, Giardini, Bradley, Riley, everyone under Riley, Bowles. It tells you that these assholes are not used to dealing with people who are informed, who are engaged, who are willing to push, who are willing to stand on the law and demand that it be followed, right? They're used to being the big dicks in the locker room. Well, guess what? Not anymore. Maybe that's the real issue, right? Maybe the problem is not that somebody is being controlled, right? Maybe the problem is that someone cannot be controlled. They don't like it that I'm not their boy. This was what they do, right? It's what they do. It's what they do, and it has to be called out. It has to be called out. Because when you put all of this together, when you look at all the people who have been targeted, you look at all the people that have been involved, you look at the patterns, you look at the names, you look at the people attached to them that are attacking me online, you look at how the narratives were built, how they were spread, you look at how licenses, jobs, and reputations are used as leverage. It stops being random. Think about that. So what? If I go up against the county, they're going to go after my license. That's the message. If Bob goes up against the county or the city, they're going to go after his license. That's the message. So to any licensed professional out there, they went after 2 of my licenses, and McCann helped go after both of them. He educated Tia on how to go after the second one at the CDCA board, which was also dismissed. So again, you guys can say what you want, but I don't care if you believe me. Fuck off. I've got the records. If you can tell me 1,000%, you can sit down and read the records, right? And you can honestly say with 1,000% certainty that I wasn't targeted, that I wasn't being attacked, I'll fucking take you out and spend all my money on your bar tab because I don't have any money. I promise you, that's what they've done. I don't have the ability to lie. When I lie, I laugh horribly. Like, something in my brain has shifted. So when I try to laugh, like, I say, like, all right, so the sky is red. The sky is blue. It internally bothers me to say, I'm actually Hispanic. Stop. I'm white. I can't. I just don't. My daughter knows when I'm a horrible liar. I don't lie. Even I come out and tell you guys stuff early on. This is why I just say full disclosure. This is why I do everything on the video. This is why I don't mean to interrupt people. I'm never trying to interrupt you. I'm never trying to step on you. I'm just ever present. And I believe like everything needs to be ever present. And so, I'm just saying, like, this is what they do. They isolate you. They discredit you. They apply pressure in ways that are hard to prove but impossible to ignore. They create an environment where standing comes up with a cost. And then they rely on that cost to keep others from doing the same. They use you. You are what they want to use. And then they just wait. They wait for you to get tired. They outlast you. They wait for you to back down. They wait for people to decide it's not worth it anymore. That's how the system sustains itself. And it only works if people stay quiet. Well, we've already proven I can't do that. People like, you have the right to remain silent. Ron White says it best when he says, well, I have the right to remain silent, but I didn't have the ability. And he's not wrong. I don't have the ability to remain silent. We've proven that. I mean, honestly, in the case that I got $2,500 out of from the county, they initially wanted me to sign a non-disclosure agreement where I wouldn't talk about it. They said it wouldn't badmouth either side. And I was like, I can't sign that. I'll go to fucking jail. I know me. I know I can't follow that. I will talk shit. I mean, even my promise of, all right, I can say I could figure out for 80 grand or 70 grand, I could definitely find a way to forget about what Ray did to me. Completely would never talk about it again. I'd find a way to not talk about it. And look, I didn't laugh. So that's true. But, and I wouldn't even think about it ever again. It wouldn't bother me until the day I died that I couldn't talk about it at all. Not at all. But I probably whispered on my dying bed. Just to get one last one over and be like, I said it out loud, fuck off. You guys would all be gone by then too. We're all gonna be gone by then. You can outlast government. They can only be in for so long as you guys don't keep voting them in to steal your money. Now that's how the system sustains itself though. That only works if you stay quiet. Now, if you've made it this far, you're gonna learn what a countywide bias looks like. Especially when you're living inside it. This is where the difference between losing a case and losing faith is a system that is supposed to decide the case, right? Hold on a second. Let me just check this out. Sorry. So no matter where you go, no matter who you deal with, no matter how much you document, no matter what you split, I'm just skip it. So there's a difference between losing the case and losing faith in the system that's supposed to decide the case, right? A difference between disagreement and something that feels consistent no matter where you go, no matter who you deal with, no matter whom or how much you document, cite, and prove. At some point, you have to ask whether you're dealing with an isolated decision or whether you're looking at something that runs through the entire system. From the city level to the county level and into the courts themselves. Because these people live here, they're elected from here, they're our citizens, they know the way this works. People ask me all the time why I didn't take certain complaints to the sheriff recently, like against Carry On. They say it, well, like it's an obvious answer, right? They say it like it's some neutral place I can go. Well, I used to think it was. But that assumes someone and something about my experience, right? It doesn't support it. It assumes that there's a place in this system that truly is independent when it comes to hear me or anyone associated with me. Because the reality I've lived does not reflect that. You're talking about the same sheriff's office that not only did I support, not only did I help get elected, not only does he know every text message that I have between him and I mean, just the one about him saying the county commissioner's shredding policy is a giant shredding truck was amazing. I have several others, including that email that shows that he interfered in the election against Rich Resendez. So you get why they want me gone? I've only released a portion of those. There's so much more in there. I had access to his website for all of his signs. He sent everything he ever did to me for review, including all of his websites. But okay. You're talking about the same sheriff's office that was present during the incident where force was used and nothing meaningful came of it.
I know.
You're talking about the same system that allowed serious issues involving the police.
Yeah.
Just come over and kiss me. Come on. Before you do all that. Be back by
Is Garen on there?
5. No, I'm on live. He's gone.
Oh, he's not on there?
No, it's a dentist.
Who else is?
I don't know who's on there right now. I'm not looking. I can't see.
Well,
Anyway.
if Robert's watching, tell him I say hi.
Robert, if you're watching, Gargas, my daughter says hi to you. Garen, when you watch this part later, my daughter says hi to you. All the other people that like me and love me and care about me, my daughter says hi. Everybody out there that doesn't like me and hates me, what does my daughter say?
Hi.
You say hi to the people that don't like me and hate me?
I say hi to everyone.
Well, that's nice of you. What do you think about those people that don't like your dad and hate your dad and try to keep him out of places?
They can suck a fat cock.
Hey, whoa! Don't ever say that kind of stuff on YouTube. Dude! We're working on the language. Holy crap. Well, she's my kid, I guess. Whatever. She's going to be an adult soon. I can't remember. Not like she's 6. But you look at these people and you go, okay, they didn't care when I got the shit beat out of me. You're talking about the same system that allowed serious issues involving the police department to be minimized and the can to be minimized. They never fully addressed. You're talking about a structure where complaints that Tia Hilton made led right to the top, and initially they were giving me full-on undisclosed, unredacted documents, and suddenly they're not. You're talking about a structure where complaints don't always lead to accountability. They lead to internal discussions, to quiet conclusions, to outcomes where they never seem to match the seriousness of what's being raised. So when you say take it to the sheriff, my question is simple. Take it to who? Really? Take it to that guy? Take it to the same structure where complaints move from one office to another and then disappear into conclusions that don't reflect the record? Yeah. That's not accountability. That's slappy loops that I don't want to be a part of. It's dereliction of duty
Stop.
at its worst. It's just bad. And once you have been through that loop enough times, you understand something that people outside the loop don't see. You understand that the problem's not one office, it's not one department, it's not one official. It's the whole goddamn system. The system operates as a whole, all the way up to Neo, all the way up to Arville's, husband, Stephen Arville, who's on the Neo board, who is now, his wife is now the HR director of Lorraine, who's going after our JBS workers. And you guys can say what you want about them, but they're making squat. I see they're making squat. You want to think that, they're not out there helping people? No, your county commissioners are the ones not out there helping people, as well as your local governments, including Lorraine. That's what countywide bias looks like, folks. It's not one decision. It's not one case. It's the consistency of the outcome no matter where you go, no matter what you see. You hit a wall. Even the prosecuting attorneys going after the commissioners, the sheriff's going after the commissioners are going after the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney. Everyone's going after me. At least in this case, we can assure that they all agree on one thing. All those people hate yours truly. That's definitely a fact. I mean, if nothing else, I should be commended for bringing them together on something, right? At least now they can all done something they can agree on, right? They all hate Aaron. Now, if you go to a city and you hit a wall, you go to the county and you hit a wall, and you go to law enforcement and you hit a wall, and you go to the county law enforcement and you hit a wall, and you go to the state law enforcement and you hit a wall, to the courts, and instead of addressing the substance, the focus always shifts to procedure, to standing, to technical reasons that allow the court issue to remain untouched.
People hate that you breathe.
It starts to feel like the system is not designed to resolve the issue. It's designed to move past it. And that's when you start asking, hearing the question like Darren asks me all the time, a question that should not have to be asked in a system that's supposed to be neutral. Like, listen to me. Why do they hate us so much? Well, if you step back, it's not just about hate in the way people think. It's about disruption. It's about what happens when you bring facts into a system that's not used to being challenged, right? They're used to getting their way. It's about what happens when you stop accepting explanations and start demanding records, documentation, and legal justification for the dumb shit they're doing. Because that changes the dynamic, and not everyone's willing to deal with that kind of change, right? And when the decisions stop being about the law, what makes even more concerning is that the pattern reaches the courts. The courts are supposed to be the place where everything is reset. They're supposed to be the place where personality doesn't matter, where relationships do not matter, where the only thing that matters is the law and the facts presented. That's the exception. But when the decisions consistently avoid the core legal issues, when they resolve cases on procedural grounds without ever hearing the substance or reaching the substance, when the result feels disconnected from the record that was presented, it raises a question that people do not want to ask. And these decisions are being made on the merits, or are they being made influenced by something else? Because when you do the work, when you cite the statutes, when you build the record, when you present the argument, when the response does not engage with that work, you're left with very few explanations. And none of them are very comfortable feeling. As a social worker, I have an ethical obligation to advocate, to speak when systems are not functioning the way that they're supposed to identify harm when, even when it's not convenient. That doesn't stop when the system's involved, the government's involved. It doesn't matter. If anything, it becomes more important because the impact is so much more broad. If decisions are being made based on who is standing in front of the court instead of what the law requires, that's not just a personal issue. That's systematic, and it's a big problem. Now we talk about the cost of speaking up. And the cost of speaking up, and this is where people need to understand that the reality of what it looks like on the other side. It's not abstract. It's not theoretical. I do not have a steady income from this. This is not income. I do not have a job I can fall back on while I'm doing this work on the side, right? My professional path has been affected in ways that are very real. My ability to work in a field that needs licensed professionals has been limited in ways that do not make sense if you're looking only at qualifications and experience. My journalism is funded by donations, and I think I've only had one to date. And that one person, I'm going to say, who donated, and she knows who she is. And I know who she is, and only one other person knows who she is. That speaks volumes. My journalism is funded by donations. It's supported by people who believe in what I'm doing, not by institutions, not by grants, and not by organizations with resources behind them, and not by people who 1,000% support everything I do. The person that donated to me maybe 6 months ago would have hated my guts. But when you start to see the way things kind of flow around and you understand that I'm not against one party or the other, I just need all the information and I'm just reporting it as I find it and will always correct it if it needs to be corrected. And that's what I'm still doing. That's it. Because people like that person donated. Because people like Amber get up and still speak and do so through the tears. And not because it's easy. Not because it's profitable, because I haven't made any money. Not because it benefits me in an immediate way, but because there is a responsibility that comes along with being informed, with being a good steward of government, with having access to records, with understanding how the system works and where it's breaking down. And that responsibility, that responsibility does not belong only to me. It belongs to all of you. All of you need to be responsible stewards of our government. Because at the end of the day, this is not about me. It's not about Garen. It's not about Bob. It's not about any one person. It's not about any one case or one decision. It's about whether the people are willing to be responsible stewards of government. It's about whether we are willing to ask questions, even though the answers are uncomfortable. It's about whether we are willing to look at the patterns instead of isolated incidents. And it's about whether we are willing to hold systems accountable, even when those systems push back. Because if we're not, if we accept that certain people cannot get a fair review, what are you taking?
Huh?
What are you taking?
Tablet?
Okay. Make sure it all comes back, please, including your glasses.
Okay.
If we accept that certain people cannot get a fair review, if we accept that certain issues will never be addressed, if we accept that the outcomes are predetermined based on who you are instead of what you represent, then we're not participating in a system of accountability. It's anarchy. It's communism. We're participating in a system that's not decided that who matters and who doesn't. And that's not something any community should ever accept. I don't. Because once that line's crossed, it doesn't stay limited to one person. It expands, it spreads, and eventually it reaches to people who never thought it would reach them, right? Tia Hilton might be a good example to realize that if you don't complete your task as ordered by the powers that be, they come back on you and use what they have on you against you. Better make sure you guys complete the mission. So if you accept a hit contract on me, you better make sure you do it. Otherwise, you see what's going to happen. Because that's why this matters, and that's why I'm still here. I don't take those, right? And that's why I'm not going to stop. All right, so we're going to another quick break here, and then I'll be right back. We're at the end of section 4 and moving into our final part of section 4. We're getting close to the end here today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I want you to understand like this. I could be like this all the time for everyone to just calm, mellow, whatever. But when we're out in public, when we're in those motions and in those moments, like they have to understand I have an obligation to get the questions asked and answered. And sometimes you have to act and ask a certain amount of questions and act a certain way in order to get those questions answered. It's obvious. Otherwise, they don't answer them. Asking, I'm in a public area, bro.
Pretty soon what he's going to do is he's going to say that he can't continue with the meeting because you won't exit.
And
the
that's not my
chambers.
problem. You work for me.
I don't work for you.
You do work for me. I pay taxes. You work for the city of
We can agree
Lorraine.
to disagree.
No, there's no agree to disagree, Mayor.
Yes, we can.
Mayor, there's no agree to disagree.
And what they're going to do is they'll just close the meeting.
Oh, they're just closing the meeting down. I've already proven this guy don't give a shit, right? Because they don't give a shit. They interrupt their own meetings. I keep trying to say Ray had zero reason to interrupt the meeting and yell at me, even if I mumbled under my breath. What the Chronicle's idiot reporter Carissa Whitetalk fails to realize when she understood Robert's rules and any of those rules, she'd understand that the audience has no bearing on what goes on the floor. Only a recognized speaker can address anybody, and anyone addressing a member of the public that doesn't hold the floor is not at a podium. It doesn't matter. It's not accountable. My words should never be mentioned, period, because I'm a non-factor unless I'm at that mic. And if you knew the rules, the laws, and the whereabouts of everything, you'd know this. That's why I know it. The reason why I'm so confident when I go in there and say the things I say is because I know the law. I read it in a book. So until you've done that, I don't know what to tell you. Because when you start asking me, like, whether the system's working or not, and start asking, I have to ask who it's working for. Because when you go through it enough times, when you try every avenue that's supposed to be existing to find a problem and solve it. I even went outside the system, filed with a judge, and had it sent to them, and they still didn't want to touch it. And when they finally did, they didn't do dick. Why? Why would they? I've come at them, prosecutors. I've told them to get Lee Prue off my yard, peeing on my yard like a dog. I've not been nice to them. I've cursed at them. I've yelled at them. I've done everything I can do. That's my right as a citizen. It's my right to hold my government accountable. They wanted to be public officials, as I did at one point. And had I become in that position, I would have to put up with it too. Mr. Demakia said it best, and he said the best way to get rid of me would have been to elect me. Because then I would have been bound by rules, and we all know I love my rules. Guess what? I won't be asking for this year is sunshine law certificates, because they now put it on our non-sworn clerk and our non-sworn assistant clerk to go and actually be the representative for our city council on the sunshine law meetings, which is all the laws that they never follow, like texting and meetings and all that. And it cracks me up that you still have Thornsberry and Arroyo and others texting and getting on their computers that are non-government stuff and doing that during these meetings, even after their law director, Riley's told them multiple times, including during a meeting at the end of last year, not to do it. So yeah, as Victoria once said, we're going to keep calling you out. But again, I'll just tell you people, you folks are a joke. You know, I am no longer worried about anyone's feelings. I'm no longer worried about anyone else's, oh, that affected me. So what? So what at this point? Everything affects everyone. We're all going to have to grow up and get with the times and realize that things are changing. And you can have Smiley Face Hall out there doing his PR campaigns. You can have, Silo out there that looks like he's fucking constipated. You can let county commissioners take a legal advice from Dan Petticourt while he's over at Job and Family Services while you're paying them an extraordinarily large amount of money. You can shortchange Job and Family Services. You can take away their 90 days. You can take away their benefits. You can alter their benefit package while giving your executives the same benefit package, if not better. You can continue to lie to the people. You can continue to push agendas we don't want, like Midway Mall and Illyria, and the Days Inn and the Mega Site. You can continue to do everything you want, and it's not going to make you any more popular with the people, but it will get you and your friends money. And that's the only thing they care about, folks. If you think they care about being popular with you, you're wrong. They don't give two fucks about you, the people, at all. Me, anyone. The only reason they give any shit about me is because I'm annoying. And they want any reason to get rid of me. Again, go back to what Ray said. How is it not conspiracy when you have a sitting safety service director who was my councilman basically telling a city councilwoman that they're looking on ways of conspiring to deal with me? And I haven't done anything wrong at that point. It took them 2 more years to figure it out. Now here we sit with it done. And of course, I'll go in front of Judge Cannon. Look, I'm hoping Judge Cannon's going to surprise me. He's the only one out of all the judges that I've never really engaged with, never really met. I have zero opinion on the man. None. I have a lot of opinions on the juvenile court. I have a lot of opinions on some other judges, some other lawyers that I've interacted with and spoken with. But Judge Cannon, I've heard good things about him. I'm hoping he's going to follow the law, just be straight, true, to the point. Look at what happened, turn the volume down, and decide, did Ray get in my face? Did he violate the law? And do they have a right to trespass me from a building when I haven't even been arrested or prosecuted or anything? Not even been through the courts. And every government action has an opportunity to have some sort of an opportunity to appeal it. And they haven't given me that. I had to go to the county court to do it. So what they did, what Bradley did, what he's acknowledged in the newspaper as an attorney is unethical, and he should lose his attorney license for it. All these attorneys will be getting complaints from me in the end. Because again, whether I keep my license or not, you made sure I'll never work again, so the license really doesn't matter, does it? It just holds sway over what I put at the end of my name. That's all you guys care about. That's all McCann was mad about. He even wrote in his complaint. He's using his social worker license to add more weight to his complaint. You mean that you were putting juvenile court documents online illegally? Well, yeah. Why else would I be arguing about that if I didn't have that license? Let's not even talk about the fact that the juvenile court lied about the fact that guardian ad litems were considered officers of the court. Their own website said it. I had it. And then they changed it after the fact. Cover up? Yes. It's not always about asking, the questions, right? And as Ray once said to me so magnificently on my front porch that I've got recorded on my front porch, Can't Save. It's not always about, who's asking or what the ask is. It's about who's asking. I was asking for some help with some dogs, but Ray told me it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about who's asking. And I've called the prosecutor's office looking for help. Tony don't give me shit. Looking for guidance, looking for basic engagement. I've been hung up on by Tony. Not redirected, not given an answer, hung the fuck up on. That's not a misunderstanding. That's hanging the fuck up on somebody when you're doing it on a government phone. Hey, Tony. Hold on. Hung the fuck up on. And that's not Commissioner hung. That's not I'm hung. That's just hung the fuck up on. That's not more hung. That's not a misunderstanding. That's not a procedural issue. That's a decision to be a dick. I've never had a meaningful interaction with any victim advocate in this town, even though I've been the victim of crimes, even though they've decided not to follow through on them. No follow-up, no outreach, not from the county or the city. No attempt to explain the process or provide any support as required by law. That matters because those resources are supposed to exist for a reason. They are supposed to be there for people navigating the system, especially when they are dealing with complex or serious issues, but nothing, not one bit, right? No, fuck you, Aaron. But when you're on the other side of it, when you're the one raising the concerns, when you're the other one documenting the issues, those resources seem to disappear, right? When you look at what happens when the cases are actually brought forward, if there is any claim, any complaint, any issue that I raise, I feel like it's dismissed before it ever is fully considered. Just like this gun law. It's resolved without reaching any sort of substance. It's moved right past instead of examination because my name's attached to it. I mean, this is the same city law department that for half of its filings in the gun case wrote my brother's name first, mislabeling this. I'm pretty sure that the dismissal had the wrong label on it. So really what Judge Brinke's dumb fucking fat ass did was fucking dismiss a fucking case based on the wrong label. These cocksuckers couldn't even get, no, look, that's where she gets it from, Aaron. These cocksuckers couldn't even get the name on the paperwork right. So if you filed it as Bobby Littlejohn et al., then you mislabeled the case. And the basis of all of this is bullshit. Because that means Judge Brinke authorized a dismissal off a clear error in the assignment of the name on the case, which was done out of some sort of real aggravation and agroness towards me that they didn't want to put my licensure first because they don't want it being seen by the public. So again, you have a sitting judge who's a brand new judge, who isn't a dick from a hole in the ground apparently, who literally rolled over to, handling a case in Lorraine with a law department that literally holds her husband and Glass's husband's job and bar and ownership in their hands. They could revoke their licensure whenever they wanted. They could advise counsel to do it. They hold position and power over these people. Again, this is the same woman who wrote that she doesn't know we conceal carry when she watched Garen conceal carry right in front of her as we were helping her carry her sign and our tables to her site at Veterans Park. But she want to act like we don't have guns and we don't carry. She's the same woman who didn't read the 3 affidavits that clearly stated that we carry and we've altered our conditions. The same fat ass that doesn't understand the laws clearly states that you must accept all facts as honest, factual, claims at this point and stage of the game. But hey, you did what Riley and crew wanted. You did exactly what they wanted. You got down on your knees and you aimed to please, like apparently all the judges here in this town do. Prove me wrong, folks. Find me a judge that follows the rules. And when they do, look what happens. Burnside follows the rules. Tony tries to appeal it 3 times. When he does it, it's fine. When I do it, I get in trouble. Right? When Tony goes after sitting people and goes after J.D. Thomason, the former prosecutor, 2-3 times, at what point does it become, double, triple, quadruple jeopardy? At what point do you realize that Tony's just a manic asshole who wants to fuck J.D.? At what point do you realize that all of them are involved in the flyers, the J.D. Thomason Get Out, the van, all of that? They were involved in it. How could you think otherwise? Look at the way they used me. I have emails and text messages from all asking me to, articulate and give advice on all of his websites and all of his decisions and everything. And yet in public, he's telling Rich Resendez and others that I don't work for him. Whatever, guys. You believe what you want. I got the receipts. I don't care if Holloway or any of these carry-ons or any of his carry-on lovers out there, you wanna run your yaps. I don't care about Lorraine Richies or any of these people that want to say things about me. I've proven to you I will sue you. I've proven I will come after you. Tia Hilton, all you individuals. Mary, you don't get to just say whatever you want in government emails to each other. And there's a much lower standard in the civil filings than there ever will be in the criminal. So fuck around and find out and keep it up. I'm done playing games. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to win your popularity contest. What I really want to do is tell you to fuck off. And after a while, you're going to start to recognize that a phrase that matters more than most people realize. Like I said, it's the asker, not the ask, right? That's what Ray said on my front porch as my city representative. Not a comment, it's a framework, because once you accept that, once you understand that the outcome may be influenced by exactly who you are rather than what you're representing or presenting to them, everything starts to make sense. The lack of response, the dismissals, the silence, the way things are handled differently depending on who is involved. Because when serious issues are ignored, that's what makes it even harder to accept what you're seeing and happening at the same time. Like, you just don't want to accept any of it. Because while some complaints are dismissed quickly and other people cannot get a response, there are other issues, serious issues, that do not seem to generate the same urgency. There are situations that raise significant concerns that are documented, that are known within the system, and yet the response does nothing to match the seriousness of what's being alleged or tarot. And that creates disconnect, and that disconnect's hard to ignore. Because if the system is supposed to protect people, right? If it's supposed to prioritize safety, if it's supposed to address harm, whether it exists, wherever it exists, then the response should always be consistent. It should always be driven by the facts and the evidence, by the severity of the situation. But when that consistency is not there, when some things are pushed aside quickly and others are not addressed at all, it raises a fundamental question about how decisions are going to be made. And again, you come back to the same issue. Is it about the ask or the asker? And what that means for trust, because once people start to see the difference, once they start to believe the outcome depends on who you are instead of what you bring forward, trust doesn't just erode, it collapses. You cannot tell people to follow the process if the process does not treat everyone the same. You cannot tell people to report issues if they believe those issues will not be taken seriously. And they weren't, and they haven't been. You cannot tell people the system is there to help if their experience shows them something different. And that's where the damage goes beyond any one case, because I think, fuck the system, fuck Lorain County, fuck the city. If you want it, I don't. You ask for it, I tell you to fuck off immediately. You want my assistance? You want me to be a witness? I didn't see shit. Because it changes how people interact with the system as a whole. I'm not going to help you anymore. I mean, you guys are all, why don't you ever have anything nice to say about the system? What do they say nice about me? It changes whether people will come forward or not, and I'm trying to change that too, because it changes whether they'll believe anything that will happen if they actually do come forward. And the problem is that doesn't stay contained, it spreads, it affects the community like a disease. And that's what has to be asked at some point. The question is no longer about one complaint, one case, or one person. The question becomes the system itself is operating in a way that it was supposed to operate or not. whether it's applying the same standard to everyone, whether it's making decisions based on the facts, the law, or other factors and influencing those outcomes, like who you know and who you blow. Because if the answer to the question is that, who you know and who you blow, and it depends on who you are, then the issue is not isolated, it's systematic. And that's a conversation that has to happen, and it has to be had, even if it's uncomfortable, because these motherfuckers are just running ramshot over all of us. They do whatever they want, and you guys just sit back and let it happen? No. Because that conversation, without it, nothing changes. If nothing changes, then the pattern continues. And that's where the record gets ignored and the system is going to close ranks. Because when you read through the record, you look at actually what's happened inside City Hall, it becomes impossible to pretend that this is about one moment, one interaction. The hallway incident didn't just start in that hallway. It was the continuation of something that had already been formally documented, already reported, already placed in front of the city as evidence with everything attached. It already met with police. It already guided them and given them everything. It was October, November, December, January, February. 5 months later, they still hadn't dealt with it. And then Ray was allowed to do it again. It's a pattern involving the same official, the same building, the same conditions, and they did nothing about it the first time. And that's why people miss when they try to reduce it to a single incident. The city was already on notice. They had been provided notice a year before that even. The complaint had been filed. The evidence had been provided. The risk had been identified, and yet nothing changed. The same environment remained in the same place. The same interactions continued. The same individuals. They were put back into the same situation without any meaningful intervention. And then it escalated. That's why I'm asking for $80,000. That's why I sent it to them and told them they have to ask their insurance company to pay it out. They knew about it. They were informed about it, and they left the aggressor in place, and they let him do what he did. Say what you want. That's what happened. That's not how a functioning system is supposed to work. When a complaint is filed, especially one supported by documentation and evidence and video and audio, there's supposed to be a response. There's supposed to be an investigation that leads somewhere. There's supposed to be an effort to prevent the same situation from occurring again. But here the record shows something different. The complaint remained open. The situation remained unchanged. The next incident was not less serious. It was more serious. It involved physical assault. And then it involved the police chief not taking my report and a sergeant, 3-bar stripe, coming to my house and not taking my report. That's not a failure of communication. That's dereliction of duty, folks. And it's failure of accountability. Because reporting a crime leads nowhere, then what you get is a moment that should be the simplest part of all this, right? An incident happens, you report it, law enforcement takes the report, the process begins. That's what we're told. That's what the system's supposed to do. What happens when your jackass police chief, big fucking Jim up there is fucking, up there, I know his name's not Jim, I'm just thinking big guy, but, Fallon is up there. But what happens with the process breaks down in real time when he says, I don't take reports. I'm not a police officer anymore. The record shows that immediately after the incident, I tried to make a report to the chief. He was present. The individuals involved were still there. It was hot on the plate. The witnesses were still there. It was ready to go to be interviewed at minimum. The evidence existed in that moment, and yet no report was taken. Think about that. No, not later, not days after, not after things have cooled down. I still asked. He still sent no one. I don't have to go and try to take more reports. I don't have to fight to make my report. He is aware of a crime that was committed, and he refuses to act on it. That makes him dereliction of duty, yeah. There's no documentation. There's no immediate action. And when you're told to go somewhere else, go file it later, go to another channel, go back to the same structure that includes the person you're actually complaining about, that's not a process. That's a barrier. That's just being a dick. Because when the person you're reporting to is part of the chain of custody and authority, then the officer present refuses to take the report, you are left with a question that no citizen should ever have to ask him. Like, that's, where did you go? Or where do you go? Or what do you do? And I want to point out something that I haven't lately is that I really want to know exactly what was the situation that transpired between Michael Fallon's wife and the lead system and why she's no longer or got in trouble over that. Let's just answer that question. Someone should ask why Michael Fallon's wife got in trouble for accessing the lead system, allegedly. When the system is not independent, though, that's where it becomes bigger than one department, right? Because people will say, go to the sheriff, go to the prosecutor, go to the courts. But I've already experienced how those systems respond. And when I've already gone down those paths, and I understand something that people on the outside don't see, these systems are not separate as people think. They communicate, they coordinate, they rely on each other. When an issue moves from one office to another, it doesn't always get a fresh review. Sometimes it gets filtered through the same lens. And that's why the question keeps coming back. Take it to who? Because the pattern follows wherever I go, from city to the county, from the law enforcement to the courts. Then the issue is not where I'm taking it. The issue is the system I'm taking it to. Because when access to the government depends on who you are, and there's another piece that can't be ignored, access, because this is not about one interaction. It's about news gathering. This was about asking questions in public buildings after the public meeting, in a space where citizens have a right to be present, a right to engage with their government. I don't come down there to City Hall on the regular. Yeah, I did that 1 week because they weren't giving me my records. Prior to that, they'd never seen me except for on days to do business. Yet the record shows something that was taken, that was done, raises a serious concern. Access was not treated equal. One porter in Carissa White Talk was engaged. She was allowed to speak, and I wasn't. The refusal was not neutral, it was selective. That matters. Because when access to officials depends on who is asking the question, when one voice is accepted and another is rejected, when under the same conditions, that's not a communication issue. That's a constitutional issue. It goes directly to viewpoint discrimination, and that's what Ray did. And when this is layered, I mean, if you don't want to take my question, that's fine, but you leave. You don't take another reporter's question before you leave and then get mad at me for asking why you're taking their question if you said you didn't have no comment or said nothing. And when that's layered on top of everything else, the pattern becomes clear, much more clear. The system decided the outcome before the process. That's what countywide bias looks like, and that's what we're living inside. Not one decision, not one bad interaction. It's the consistency of the outcome, no matter where you go. You file a complaint, nothing changes. You report an incident, no report's taken. You seek help, you're ignored, go to the court, issue is never reached. Same result through different doors. Unless you're sucking somebody off, or you got a business in Lorain where your husband's work and own, unless you're contributing back to their campaigns, to their dollars, you don't matter. And at some point you have to ask whether the outcome is being decided before you ever get to the process. Because every path leads to the same place. That's not a series of independent decisions. It's a system that's aligned. And that's going to bring us to why people stop believing. I'm going to get right back to that. We're going to do a quick break real quick so I can clear my throat. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Asking, I'm in a public area, bro.
Pretty soon what he's going to do is he's going to say that he can't continue with the meeting because you won't exit.
And that's not my problem. You work for me.
I don't work for you.
You do work for me. I pay taxes. You work for the city of Lorain. No, there's no agree to disagree, Mayor. Mayor, there's no agree to disagree.
And what they're going to do is they'll just close the meeting.
Down to all of our departments and assure that as part of our regular checklist that we have for many projects, that we can visit this. This is not a common area because we typically don't waive fees. So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Say something?
Then why are we?
Say something?
Then why are we? You want to get an
Mr.
attitude? You work for me, Carry On. Yeah, get it. Do it.
Mr. Knapp, let's have it.
No, your employee is addressing me, sir.
Safe.
No.
Excuse me, President Arredondo,
You better calm down, bro.
President Arredondo.
Madam Sprigowski.
At this point, I would move to a point of order and ask that you recess the meeting until this gets all straightened out, because this is disruptive to our agenda.
Well, guys, I don't know how else to put it. This is what they did here. That's why people stop believing. This is why the real damage actually happens here. Because it's not about one person. It's about what people see when they watch this play out. It's about what people believe when will happen if they step forward. If they think they will get ignored, or worse yet, attacked or dismissed, if they think the outcome depends on who they are instead of what they bring forward, what facts they have, they're not going to stop coming forward. And when that happens, the system doesn't just fail individuals, it fails the public as a whole. Because accountability depends on people being willing to use it. And if people no longer believe it works, they won't use it. And that's why I keep going. That's why this is where it all comes back to responsibility, because I'm not doing this because it's easy. I'm doing it because it benefits, the society. It's not because it benefits me. I'm not doing it because there's some guarantee of success at the end of it. I'm doing this because it matters. Because I want to do something that matters to my life as a social worker, and fighting the good fight is all that matters. Because if no one documents it and that's all we do, I mean, like literally, did you document it? No one challenges it, and then no change will ever happen. If no one speaks, it will continue. This is not just about one case, one incident, one official, one person. This is about whether people are willing to look at the system as it actually operates, not as it's supposed to operate, and ask whether those two things still match. Because if they don't, then the responsibility goes to shit, right? Responsibility does not go away, though. It becomes greater. When no record becomes an answer, that's a problem, because then that's the moment where the system stops pretending to operate in the way that it's supposed to. There's a moment where the explanation you are given is so disconnected from the actual, like, what happened, that it forces you to confront something much deeper than a mistake. It breaks your heart if you realize it's because a clerical error is one thing, right? Like a mistake, a missing page is something, but a delay in processing is something. But when evidence is physically handed over in person at a command level, and the official response from the Lorain sheriffs was later that there was no record given, that's not an error. That's a decision. And then later I came up with the evidence, and suddenly they're like, well, we're not saying he didn't give it to us, but you did. People need to understand what that means. That means the chain of custody exists. That means the transfer happened. That means that there were people present, people involved, people responsible. That means at some point someone had the evidence in their hands. So when the answer comes back as no record, that's not a gap in paperwork. That's a breakdown in accountability from the sheriff's office. And because the entire record system is built on records, the entire system is built on records, right? Law enforcement runs on reports, prosecutors run on documentation, courts run on filings. The entire structure depends on ability to track what happened, when it happened, and who handled it, and what was done with it. That's the foundation. So when a record should exist and it does not exist, or is claimed to not exist, it's not a minor issue. It goes beyond the core of whether the system is functioning the way it's supposed to function. Because if evidence can't be handed over and then later, or if evidence can be handed over and then later does not exist on paper, then the system no longer operating on the record. It's operating on discretion. And discretion without accountability is where the whole problem begins, right? Because it's not an isolated incident. That's where this matters, because this isn't one situation. This is part of a greater pattern. I file records requests, and I'm told nothing exists. Only for pieces to later service later, or all of them, like the McCann emails. Lied to by city officials who knew they existed all along. I provide information, and I'm told there's no record of it. I raise issues, and I'm told there's no documentation supporting my claims. Even when I know exactly where that documentation should be, and I point it out. It's the same answer across different platforms and situations, no record. And at some point, that answer stops being believable because the system cannot function without records. So if the records don't exist, either the system is failing at its most basic level, or records are being not acknowledged. And there are only two options when the system reviews itself, and people take it somewhere else. They take it to another agency, take it to another office. But that's where reality of the system becomes clear. The same network is reviewing itself. The same offices that work together are being asked to evaluate each other. The same structure that handled the issue first time is being asked to correct it the second time. And the outcome doesn't change. That's not independence, that's reinforcement. Because when one path or when every path leads to the same system, that's when you're not escalating the issue, you're circulating it. And that's what countywide bias looks like, folks. That is what it looks like when bias is not limited to one person or office. It's when the outcome is consistent no matter where you go. You report an issue and there's no record. You escalate the issue and there's no response. And then, hold on. Yes, Elliot, that is him. When you start looking at the individual decisions and you start looking at the system as a whole, right? Every answer comes back from every direction, then it's not an accident, it's alignment. What does that mean for accountability? Because accountability depends on something very simple, a record. Without a record, there's nothing to review. There's nothing to challenge. There's nothing to hold up against law. That's why they hate me. I'm records guy. It's all I want is your records. I don't want your words. I want your paper. So when the record disappears, accountability disappears with it. And when that happens, the system no longer has to justify its actions. It only has to deny them. Someone wants to know why someone's talking shit, I think, to Jack, for the mayor, and then why Joel Arredondo is liking the comment. Kind of funny. Because he's senile, bro. Probably thought he was liking something good. And so, oh, I didn't know. But that's not how any of this is supposed to work, folks. And why it matters is because that's not about one document, one piece of evidence, one case, one interaction, one situation, one city official. It's about whether the system can be trusted to maintain the record of its own actions. Because if it cannot, then everything else that's built on that system becomes unstable. The investigations, prosecutions, the decisions, everything. All of it depends on the record being real, being preserved, and being accessible. If that's not happening, then the issue is not procedural. It's fundamental. Brings us full circle because when you combine this with everything else, the ignored complaints, the lack of response, the dismissal of issues, the pressure on individuals, the patterns across agencies, you start to see the full picture. Not about one failure. It's about a system, one challenge that does not correct itself. It protects itself. When that happens, the question is no longer about whether a single incident was handled correctly. The question becomes whether the system is capable of handling correctly at all, ever. And that's the question that has to be asked now. All right, that's going to bring us to our final thought. Now, before we get to our final thought, I'm going to do one last little break here where I actually do a real one. Yeah, I know. I agree. You know, people are telling me it was disgusting when I had to go through it. But look, I agree it was bad when I had to go through it, Ray, but I have to go through this in order to achieve the outcomes that we want. That's it, folks. Otherwise, what are we doing this for? If I have to go to jail so that all of you can have a better life and a better outcome, and my daughter can have a better government, then I regret that I have only one set of freedoms to give up for my country and my county and my city. Because I recognize how important this is as a veteran and as a member of the society that respects democracy. So before we finish up with our final segment, and an apology and a promise, I'm going to take one more quick break, and then I will be back to finish this up. I thank you guys for tuning in, and that's, as always, a long one. But there's always a lot to say in this place.
Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorraine Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations, and all of their shows, they put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry.
Alrighty, folks. Thanks for staying tuned in. This has been a long one as always, but here's our final thought. All right, so I don't know, folks. This is the part that I don't really talk about enough. The part that stays with you after these cameras are off, after the filings are done, after my articles are written. It's the part. It's not about the law, not about the record, not about the arguments. It's about the people who stand next to you when you decide to do this. And it's fitting that over here, Elliott's messaging me, and I do agree that Fallon was incompetent for what he did, and I do agree that other people helped take the heat. And this is where I kind of go. People like Elliott, people like Garen, people like Bob. Because none of this is happening in a vacuum. Nobody walks in this and walks through this whole valley of death alone, right? It comes out the same. The hardest part of all of this is not what's been done to me. It's what's been done to the people who chose to stand by me. Because I don't feel enough to feel that way, because I need to be clear about this, right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Bob Gargas. He's done what every attorney is supposed to do. He's followed the Constitution. He stood on the law as written. He's taking cases that matter instead of cases that are easy. And for that, he's been persecuted. He's been treated like the problem. He's been questioned and challenged, put under the microscope, put under pressure. Not because he's wrong, but because he refuses to bend and because he supports me. So they filed multiple complaints against his license. They want him to be sanctioned. This is how they work. Because they realize if they can take out any lawyer willing to represent me, then they solve their problem. And I'm a problem for them. I mean, you guys already realize I don't necessarily need the attorney. That's why I did the per se case recently. But it's not how any of this is supposed to work. An attorney who follows the law should not be persecuted. He should be respected, not targeted. An attorney who defends constitutional rights should be heard, not dismissed. And here we are in Lorain, Ohio, Lorain County, a place where doing the right thing makes you a fucking target. Now, I'm sorry for standing, that standing beside me makes you a target. And I'm sorry that standing beside me has put you in these positions. I'm sorry to Garen Petty, who stood up and exercised his rights, who refused to be silent, who paid for it, who asked a simple question that still echoes through all of this. Why do they hate us so much? Why? The answer is not what people think. It's not personal in the way that they want to frame it. It's because we don't accept what we are told without question. It's because we bring the record. It's because we put the facts side by side with the narrative and let people see the difference. Make up your own mind. For that, the response is not engagement, it's retaliation. And that's what it's always been. Not disagreement, not debate, retaliation. That's the part people need to understand. Is that this does not just affect me. It affects everyone connected with me. It affects the people who support me, the people who work with me, the people who believe in what this work is supposed to be about. And what do you think is going to happen when they run out of us? Some of us lose access. Some of us lose opportunities. Some of us lose far more than that. And that's the part that weighs on me so heavily because I chose this. I chose to push. I chose to document. I have a fallback in my VA pension. They're never going to destroy me. I can keep standing no matter what. And not only that, by reducing my income, they just made it so I can do it for free. So instead of paying Bob and other people that I would normally pay to support my local government and society, I have to do it for free and get you to do it for me. So for every single case they force me to file, I'm filing for an indigency waiver, and I'm doing it for free. I don't have any money. I would if I had a job, but I chose to keep going when it would have been easier to just walk away. But the people around me, they didn't choose the consequences that came with it, and they're pretty much carrying them anyway. And that's why I don't trust the system. They tell me to trust it. So people ask, well, why don't you just go to the sheriff? Why don't I just file another complaint? Why don't I just trust the process? I need people to understand that I did. Bob did. We followed the process. We went where we were told to go. We raised the issues the way that we were supposed to be raised. And what came back was not accountability. It was silence. It was dismissal. And it was decisions that did not reflect the record. And at some point, you got to be honest about what that means. It means the system that you're being told to trust is not the same system that you believe in. It's the same system that has already shown you how it responds. And when you have lived it, and when you've seen it up close, and when you've watched it happen, not just to you, but to the people around you, you can't pretend like it's something that it's not. You can't keep sending people to a system that you know is not treating them fairly and call it justice. That's what this is. It has a cost. Because this has to cost something. It costs time. It costs stability. It costs relationships, opportunities, and the ability to move forward in ways that should have never have nothing or anything to do with any of this. And for some people, it's cost much more than that. That's the part these people don't see when they sit outside. They sit on the outside and they just say, well, just let it go. Just move on, just stop. Because moving on means accepting that what's been done. It means accepting that this is how it works. It means accepting that if you stand up, this is what happens to you and to the people around you, where they can't just take your complaint, say, no, it's all good, didn't find anything, and move on. No, they retaliate. And this is not about anger. It's about responsibility. I don't feel any anger about this. I'm going to, once you guys finally trash me completely, I'm going to go back to collecting my full veterans pension and be a happy camper. But it's not about being angry. It's about getting, not even about getting even. It's not about any of the things people try to reduce this to, so they don't have to deal with it. This is, and always has been, about accountability and responsibility. Responsibility to the truth, responsibility to the record, and responsibility to the people who do not have the ability to push back the way we have. As we get older, we have the money and we have the ability to do the right thing. And that's why you see people like Garrett doing what he can, assisting people. Because if it can happen here, it can happen in a place where everything is documented. If it can happen right here, where everything is documented, everything's being put on the record. Everything's being challenged in real time. When it's happening in places, what does go on when nobody's watching? And that should concern everyone. The only thing left to keep going, that's it. The only thing that's left for me is to keep going. Like, that's all I have. So this is where I'm going to leave it. To Bob, to Garen, to Elliot, who's over here in my inbox, saying I'm sorry. All these people saying they're sorry for what Ray did to me. I'm sorry you had to watch it. I'm sorry for what this put you through. I'm sorry for the weight that's come for you with doing the right thing in a system that doesn't always reward it. But I'm also very grateful for all of you, because without any of you, without you, none of this would be possible. Without you, the record would not exist. Without you, the truth would be easier to ignore. And that matters, folks, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. It's not winning every case. I don't care if I win every case. Sun Tzu said, it's not about winning the individual battles. It's about winning the war. The battles aren't what I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win the war here against a corrupt government. I'm not changing everything overnight. I'm not getting the outcome I want every time. I don't get mad when, Mary or others went, oh, look, you lost. Yeah. Well, you mean I educated myself on the wrong way to do something? So I now know the right? Because it's about making sure that the record exists. It's about making sure that people look back They cannot say that they did not know. And it's about making sure that even when the system pushes back, even when it costs something, even when it would be easier to stop, we don't. Because if we do, then this becomes normal. And that is something none of us should ever have to accept. Ever. So thank you guys for tuning in today. This is Aaron Knapp. Knapp Unplugged. Here it is on a Monday. No school, snow day. Everybody has some free time. I thought I'd just kind of put it out there in a very calm, collected way that this is no longer acceptable in my book. You're not going to keep treating people this way. And I definitely will be treated this way. I'm working on getting all of my documents together, all my videos together, and I'm going to start sharing each one of them slowly over a time frame. I've got them set up on this website that's going to release them even after they do something to me or if they do something to me. So be on the lookout for what's to come next, folks. Thanks for tuning in today. This has been Aaron Knapp with Aaron Knapp Unplugged. I appreciate you tuning in today. Please check out our website. Also, if you feel like donating, right up here, you know, I'm gonna make sure my family doesn't starve right there because I don't have a job. Thanks to Lorraine City. But keep free journalism free is all I will say. Thanks for tuning in. Law enforcement, you be lawful, not awful. The rest of the city, you know, keep your head above water. For those of you that hate me, at least I give you something to do. That fire will keep you warm late at night. Trust me. With that note, I'm going to say,